How you doing, Mads? Welcome, welcome. How are you?
Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin this Tuesday morning with another day of protests against federal immigration raids in Los Angeles.
About 700 Marines are now being deployed. They'll support the hundreds of National Guard members who are already in L.A. trying to control these protests. California Governor Gavin Newsom calls the mobilization completely unwarranted. Protesters took to the streets again yesterday, clashing with police and the National Guard. Dozens of people have been arrested so far. These protests are in response to the Trump administration's stepped-up immigration raids, which began last Friday.
The state of California is now suing the administration over the activation of the state's National Guard. They're asking a court to declare the order unlawful. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is pleading with the federal government to stop the raids in the city. She says L.A. may be a test case for increased federal authority.
We didn't need the National Guard. Why on earth? What are they going to do? Do you know what the National Guard is doing now?
Nothing.
They are guarding 2 buildings. So they need Marines on top of it?
The Marines can't do anything. So let me explain something. The Posse Comitatus Act prevents the military from participating in law enforcement, right? So what does that mean? That means that the Posse Comitatus Act means that the military can't detain you. They can't arrest you. They can't participate in crowd control. They can't do any of that unless you overpower the Posse Comitatus Act. Trump can only do that if he decides to actually invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. What Donald has done is effectively invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807 by using Title 10 U.S. Code 12406. Title 10. Which is this. The United States or any of the Commonwealths or possessions is invaded or in danger of invasion by a foreign nation, then the President may call into federal service members and units of the National Guard of any state and such members that he declares necessary to repel the invasion. Laszlo Tempest. You're welcome. So, the only way for the Marines that he sent and the National Guard to be able to actually do anything is if he invokes the Insurrection Act, which it looks like he's gearing up to do.
I don't understand that. That's why I feel like we are part of an experiment that we did not ask to be a part of.
We'll have analysis ahead from NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Let's begin this hour with NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal. Camila, good morning. It was another active night in the streets of downtown Los Angeles. So what's the latest on these protests, and where do we stand right now when it comes to mobilizing those Marines to try and support the National Guard?
Hey guys, good morning. So we haven't seen the Marines yet. We know they will be deployed according to the president, but we also know that Governor Gavin Newsom says that he doesn't want them here and is going to sue, just like he sued in terms of the National Guard. In the meantime, we may be going.
As a German, I cannot fathom that. You will probably have a civil war. What do you mean, as a German, you cannot fathom that? As a German, of all people, you should be able to fathom it. I mean, you're definitely young and weren't there for the first time, but this is exactly what you fuckers did. This is precisely what you motherfuckers did.
To day 5 of these protests. Day 4, right now, it is 4 a.m. in Los Angeles, and the streets are peaceful. It usually ends with police declaring an unlawful assembly. That means everyone has to clear the streets or else they will get arrested. So that's how you get a lot of peaceful nights here in Los Angeles, although there is still a large police presence, and there is still a lot of cleanup to do because we did see some looting overnight. When you walk through some of the streets in downtown LA, you'll find a lot of graffiti.
What's the news today? That's what we're finding out right now. Let's see some of the breaking news headlines. Trump sends the Marines, and I think he sent 2,000 more National Guard troops. School shooting in Austria, 10 dead. That's fucked. Greta Thunberg is being deported back to, I think, the UK or Sweden or some shit. Oh, yeah. Kennedy fired every single vaccine expert at the CDC. And a union leader was arrested in California. So, let's see.
And LAPD saying they're actually going to continue to look through surveillance video and continue these investigations, and say that they're likely going to have arrests in the...
We should also check Trump's truth. What about the vaccine thing? RFK Jr. fired every single vaccinologist or vaccine expert at the CDC. Oh, what time is Trump's Fort Bragg speech? $4 p.m. Eastern. All right, I won't be here for that. If I didn't send in the troops to Los Angeles the last 3 nights, that once beautiful and great city would be burning to the ground right now. Much like 25,000 houses burned to the ground in LA due to an incompetent governor and mayor. Incidentally, the much more difficult, time-consuming, and stringent federal permitting process is virtually complete on these houses. All the easy and simple city and state permits are disastrously bungled up the way behind schedule. They're a total mess. It will be for a long time. People want to rebuild their houses. Call your incompetent governor and mayor. The federal permitting is done. Why does he want my kids to get polio? Because it will boost their immunity system, and then your children's children will be like metahumans, and then you will have better antibodies. Selena Zito has written a powerful new book, Butler, The Untold Story of the Near Assassination of Donald Trump and the Fight for America's Heartland. What an absolutely dog shit title. What a fucking dog shit title. End it there. The untold story of the near assassination of Donald Trump. Why the fuck did you have to add in and to fight for America's heartland? What a fucking idiot. Holy shit, he used the wrong due to. Where is it? Due to. Dude, this guy's so stupid. Look at that. Look how stupid he is. Look how stupid he is. Look how fucking dumb he is. That's the President of the United States.
You thought it couldn't get any more festive inside Prudential Center. The President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, flanked by our UFC CEO, Dana White. Great to have the 47th President of the United States with us at another massive UFC.
The nation is burning to the ground. And our President is at the UFC fights. Oh my God. He's such a fucking loser. Greta Thunberg and 3 other activists. Get off my face. Get off my face. Greta Thunberg and 3 other activists who were on the intercepted ship were taken to an airport to be flown home. This is what I said would happen.
In the water, please.
What did he just grab? What is he throwing?
Assume position, please, everyone. Assume the water.
Are they throwing their phones in the water? Why are they throwing their phones in the water? So that Israel can't, like, hack into their phones and get all their information?
Phones in the water, please. Assume position, please, everyone. Assume the water.
Yeah, okay. I mean, listen. I think that's smart, but, like, so much for litter, right? Like...
Calm down. Calm down, everyone. Calm down. Everything's gonna be alright. Calm down. Wait.
「 Oh, and then the publicity stunt. Gotta hand out food and water. When you're accused of starving people, gotta hand out the food and water.
Hey guys, wait! No!
You have footage of the Marines yet? No, the Marines are waiting to get rules of engagement. The White House is like in this incredibly fast-paced process to try and give the Marines rules of engagement. Let them know who they can kill, when they can kill them, when they can open fire, because the Marines have to know.
Coming days for people who are responsible for this looting. But it is important to point out that throughout the day, mostly peaceful protests, and yesterday, protests that were less violent than previous days. You still, though, have a group of people or just a few people who
You got to
want
remember,
to
the Marines are not trained in de-escalation. The Marines are not trained in crowd control in terms of, like, protesters. The Marines' version of crowd control is a 40-millimeter grenade launcher or an M240 Bravo fully automatic machine gun. That's how we teach the Marines to clear crowds, because the Marines are supposed to be the first ones in and the last ones out. The Marines are fucking badass. You don't send the Marines to deal with fucking protesters. It's insane.
Things who want to become more violent, and you have protesters on the ground who say they've even tried to stop some of the people that wanted to create that violence. But when that erupts, that's when you have officials coming in with the tear gas and the rubber bullets and trying to disperse the crowd. Some of the images that you see there, and then you of course see people running. It sort of looks like a stampede of people trying to get away from these officers, who then try to calm things and try to keep this area safe. There's of course that back and forth between federal leaders and local leaders who say they don't want the National Guard here and they don't want the Marines here, guys.
Danny, let's bring you in and talk about this lawsuit by the state of California against the Trump administration. First, I want to play a little bit from the state attorney general talking about this. We'll talk on the other side.
He's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the...
say, I love how everybody complains but won't leave. Like, passports aren't $100. No, let me stare at a screen and complain because that's going to fix everything. The difference between us, Dreadpool, is that I'm not a coward. My initial reaction is not to run away when things get bad. I think of America as my home. And when there's a leak in the roof of my home, I don't pack my bags and move. I try to fix the leak. That's the difference between us. You immediately jumped to running away if things get out of hand. If things look different than what you want, you immediately think I should run. That's not how I function. I wasn't raised by cowards like you. I'm going to fight to fix the problem. So what you're saying is passports are affordable. Thanks for ratifying my point.
Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. It's lucky for the people in Los Angeles and in California that we did what we did. We got it just in time. It's still simmering a little bit, but not very much.
Danny, how strong is the state's argument in this lawsuit against the administration?
Did you say you left all the time? So you want a vacation? Dreadpool, going on a vacation is vastly different than becoming an expat. The United States of America makes it very difficult to become an expat in order to give up your citizenship, become a citizen of another nation. That is a very lengthy and very expensive problem.
This particular law says that all orders to mobilize or federalize troops must be issued through a state's governor. So now we're going to find out, what does that language mean? Does that mean that Governor Newsom has to consent to federalizing National Guard troops? Or is it just a procedure?
Saying we should leave because of current living conditions? Well, you have to remember, you're not arguing with a Republican. You're arguing with a fascist. These people are fascists. They would prefer if you just left, because if you don't leave, well, then they're going to kill you. That's what they want. Either get out of the nation or die in the nation. That is what these people want.
Procedural requirement that an order just be routed through a governor. But what does that mean? Does it mean the president can order the governor to issue that
try
order?
To fix a problem. He sits on media all day and night about Trump. Try doing something useful with your life. Yeah, dude, I'm part of the reason why there are so many people who hate you and the Republican Party. I have spent every single day since Donald Trump was elected trying to convince the American people that Donald Trump is a fascist, and the tide is turning. You are losing support by the day. Millions of people are abandoning Trump. I hope you understand you are losing this fight. You are very much so losing this fight.
Definitely get into some tricky constitutional issues there because of principles of federalism that the states and federal governments are separate sovereigns. So it would be strange if the statute authorized the president to simply order the governor, or does the statute simply authorize the president
yeah, that happens.
to mobilize troops? And that language about ordering.
Just so you know, Nelson, there's already two Nazis in the chat. Dreadpool and who's the other one? Steve H. They are two proud fascists.
Through the governor's office is just a procedural issue.
The White House has said it's
don't need to ban them
happy
immediately. First,
to
I want
have this
get them to
fight
admit that they're
with
fascists.
California. They've even threatened to arrest Governor Gavin Newsom. Is there any sort of precedent between a clash between the federal government and state and local officials on this level like this before that we've seen before?
Sure, I'm not being glib, but you could say the Civil War is a good example of state and federal conflict. But I say that not in a joke, but...
So hold on real quick. Dreadpool and to the Nazis in the chat, do you guys have no problem with the President of the United States sending in the Marines to Los Angeles without the permission of the governor? Do you have any problem with him taking over the National Guard of California without the permission of the governor, which hasn't been done since 1965? Do you have any problem with this whatsoever? I'm genuinely curious. Oh yeah, very much so reminiscent of that, Capella. Very much so. So you guys not going to answer? Dreadpool, do you have any problem with the United States president sending in the Marines without the permission of the governor? Any problems with that whatsoever? He doesn't need permission from the governor to send in the Marines or National Guard. He actually does. He actually does. That's why this is entirely illegal. He does.
Because that's where we get a lot of these statutes and a lot of these concerns about federalism, where we ask the question, at what point does the state sovereignty exceed that of the federal government, which was designed to be a limited government? And so, in a way, we are going to find out, and that's probably why the Trump administration is looking forward to this, because this seems to be their superpower. They find these areas of the law that have never really been litigated.
Let's pull up Trump saying it. Trump 2020 National Guard. Let's see if we can get it on Twitter. Morning, Jack. Hey, if you won't take my word for it, Dreadpool, how about this?
I promised 4 years ago at the Republican convention, I'm going to restore law and order.
And I have, except in Democrat-run cities. Look, we have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
So there's your God King saying it himself. So which one is it? Can he do it or can he not do it? Now that you have, all right, you can ban Dreadpool, dude. He's just being a fucking whiny little beta bitch. Get the fuck out of here, you fucking pussy. Suck my fat cock, you fucking loser.
I promised 4 years ago at the Republican convention, I'm going to restore law and order.
And I have, except in Democrat-run cities. Look, we have laws. We have to go by the laws.
We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
I promised 4 years ago at the Republican convention.
Yeah, so, I mean, listen, what do you... There's nothing that his supporters can say. Every single person who still supports Donald Trump is an inferior person. It's that simple. They're inferior, okay?
I mean, this portion of the law has barely ever been used, so we may find out through the Supreme Court or some other court what exactly that language means, that all federalization of National Guard troops must come through the governor's office. Does that mean the governor is a puppet, or does it mean the governor has veto power? We don't yet know.
Camilla, walk us through what we can expect today on the streets of Los Angeles. Do we think a similar scene could play out like the last few days?
It's very possible. You know, we've been seeing
you okay? You look a bit haggard. I've only been awake for like 30 minutes.
Evolve very organically over the last few days, obviously starting on Friday. And the thing here is that at the center of this issue is the raids, the ICE raids. And that's why you had Karen Bass pleading for all of these raids to stop. But the federal government saying that's not necessarily going to happen. And so you have a lot of people who are very upset about their loved ones being detained by immigration authorities in places like a Home Depot or just in the place where they
to
work.
Your echo chamber, little bro. Wait, Caleb, don't leave yet. I have a question. Can I ask you a question? I just want to see if you're a fucking fascist or if you're dumb. Because there's only two choices. Either you're a fascist or you're stupid. Can I ask you something? Don't leave yet, Caleb. Don't leave yet. Caleb. Don't leave yet, Caleb. Please. ICE is the American Gestapo? Yes. I think he left. Poor guy.
Appointments. So if you continue to see these raids, you are going to likely see reaction from the people of Los Angeles. This is a largely minority area with a lot of Latinos and Hispanics and a lot of undocumented people. So this is really in the fabric of Los Angeles. The undocumented population could be your neighbor, your friend, your family member, and that's why you have the sort of reaction that you saw on Friday after those raids. And you could continue to see that if the raids continue to happen. It's, again, why you see the mayor of Los Angeles asking the federal government for all of this to stop. Will it? It's probably not going to stop.
Okay, Camila and Danny, thank you both for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it.
Well, reaction to President Trump's crackdown on protests in Los Angeles is split along party lines. California Democrats are pushing back with, as we've been discussing, Governor Gavin Newsom arguing Trump is trying to, quote, manufacture a crisis.
But on Capitol Hill, Republicans are standing by the president's actions. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Speaker Mike Johnson defended the president's decision to deploy Marines to California.
Of course Mike Johnson did, dude. Of course he did. You can permaban Jason Baylor.
Authorities could not handle the situation on their own.
Yo, permaban Jason Baylor. Do your fucking job.
When he said that Marines might be dispatched to Los Angeles, I think that's an important message.
Yo, Patriots, just so you know, Jason is one of you. You stand shoulder to shoulder with that guy. You and him together, you are on the same side.
Hopefully it has the deterrent effect, but he's federalized the National Guard. I think that's an appropriate step. They are bringing an end to that chaos. I believe we have to maintain the rule of law. And if the state and local leaders are unable or unwilling to do so, it is the job of the federal government to step in.
NBC News senior national political
No, I don't.
reporter
Yes, you do, Patriot. You and him voted for the same guy. You and him are on the same side. You and him both oppose these protests. You and him are on the same side whether you choose to admit it or not. That's not your fucking choice.
Kapoor joins us with more on this. Sahil, good morning. Tell us, how are other members of the president's party responding on the Hill?
Hey, guys. Well, congressional Republicans are firmly behind President Trump here. They support the aggressive immigration crackdown that led to these protests. And now they say...
You vote the same, but you don't think the same? You two are on the same side. Do you understand this? I'm not asking your opinion. I'm asking you whether you understand this. You and him are on the same side. Do you understand that, or are you mentally disabled? Those are your choices. Either you understand that or you're mentally disabled. Which one is it? Do you understand what I'm saying, or are you mentally disabled? Those are your two choices. Not either. Okay, you're mentally disabled.
Trying to restore law and order to the city of Los Angeles and to California. They accuse Democrats of allowing the city to spin out of control. Some Republicans on Capitol Hill are dialing up the rhetoric, openly attacking
Why hate?
California.
That's not hate. That's a fact. If you are incapable of understanding that that man is on your side, it means you are mentally stunted. You are intellectually inferior to everybody around you.
Playing up that culture war that red state Republicans tend to like to do. Take a listen to what Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota said yesterday.
There's no question about places like California have thumbed their noses at the American people and decided they want to be sanctuary for criminals. And the president has a responsibility to the United States, and he has a federal nexus.
Here's a question. Hey, 11 Patriots 12. Who do you think the Ku Klux Klan voted for? Do you think the Ku Klux Klan voted for the black woman? Hey, 11 Patriots 12. Who do you think the Ku Klux Klan voted for? They voted Democrat. Are you serious? You think the Ku Klux Klan voted for a black woman? Are you serious? Biden was a part of the KKK? That's not true whatsoever. Try answering the question, coward. Who do you think the Ku Klux Klan voted for? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, a black woman? Who do you think they voted for? Try answering the question. Try being brave for once in your life instead of deflecting and moving the goalpost. Just try. Just try being brave. Literally pictures of him with the leader back in the 50s. That does not make him in the fucking Ku Klux Klan, you literal fucking dunce. David Duke has been a part of American politics in the 50s. And also, fucking Joe Biden is like 90 fucking years old, okay? So try answering the question, you gelatinous, spineless pussy. Who do you think the Ku Klux Klan voted for? Donald Trump or a black woman named Kamala Harris? Try answering the question, you fucking pussy. Just try. If you don't answer the question right now, I am fucking banning you. Just because I'm tired of dealing with actual cowards. Who do you think members of ISIS in the U.S. voted for? All right, first, they voted for Kamala. All right, ban Patriots 12. For saying that the Ku Klux Klan voted for it. Dude, you're lying to yourself. You are actually a pathetic fucking worm. Main Life, do you actually think that members of ISIS in the United States of America vote? Do you think that there are members of ISIS in the United States of America that are voting? Are you trolling or are you being serious? Main Life. Hi, Doug. Very serious? Ban Main Life. You're an intellectually inferior person. You're a fucking idiot.
And he's exercising it. And I think that he's exercising exactly what he said he'd do and what the people elected him to do. So.
And promptly, you've got California Governor Gavin Newsom responding to some of his Republican critics. Take a look at this tweet responding to Speaker Mike Johnson. Argues that this isn't ultimately about crime. He notes that red states, including Louisiana, have higher crime rates than California. And if this was really the logic, then the administration would be deploying the Guard to states like Louisiana, which, of course, isn't happening, guys.
Yeah, it's just high Hill. We've heard from Governor Newsom. We've heard from L.A. Mayor Karen Bass. How about Democratic lawmakers on the Hill? How are they responding? Do they seem to have a cohesive message here beyond calling for peace?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that Democrats are saying. They say, for starters, they support the peaceful protest, but they don't support the violence, that they condemn that. They argue that Republicans are being the party of lawlessness and disorder here. They say Trump is trying to deliberately inflame the situation. Some of them also say he doesn't have credibility on the issue of law and order, given that he, of course, pardoned violent attackers on January 6th who violently attacked police officers. Take a look at this statement by former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, of course, representing California. Says, quote, the Trump administration's escalation and provocation inflames tensions and incites violence. She goes on to say all Americans must be able to exercise their constitutional right to lawfully and peacefully protest, and goes on to say we must shine a bright light on the unlawful tactics of the Trump administration so that freedom of speech prevails.
Let me explain this to you guys. Okay. Oh. See, they're turning away and threatening to arrest protesters. Yeah, they declared all of downtown Los Angeles as a unlawful assembly area, meaning anybody and everybody outside. They declared martial law in downtown LA. Anybody who stepped foot outside was arrested. Thank you for the $5 donation. All right, so let me explain this. So, in 1965, this is during the Civil Rights Movement, in Selma, Alabama, the governor, George Wallace, refused to provide safety for the marchers who were, including, I forgot the name of one of the Supreme Court justices, but refused to provide safety to the people who were marching for civil rights. And what ended up happening was the Ku Klux Klan, all of the racists, the people who would support Trump today, the Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, they all came out and started beating the fuck out of these people. And Governor George Wallace of Alabama refused to send in the National Guard. Because of that, President Lyndon B. Johnson federalized them without their permission. This is the first time that had happened, okay? This is 1965. This hasn't happened since 1965, and back then it happened to enforce civil rights. So the only time this happened previously was quite literally for the best cause, and now we are using it for the worst cause. So what Trump has done, because he is too afraid to invoke the Insurrection Act, what he did was invoke 10 U.S.C. 12406, okay? The president may call into federal service members and units of the National Guard of any state in such numbers as he considers necessary to repel the invasion. So what does this mean, repel the invasion? All the National Guard and the Marines that he deployed, all they can do, and this is going to scare you, all they can do is shoot people. They cannot detain people. They cannot arrest people. They cannot question people. They can, however, shoot to kill. That is what this means. Now, that is because of this, the Posse Comitatus Act. Okay? The Posse Comitatus Act means, where is it? There must be a lawful reason. This isn't it. Posse Comitatus Act. There it is. The Posse Comitatus Act, it limits the power of the federal government in the use of federal military personnel to enforce domestic policies. So what that means is that the federal government can send in the military, right, which is what Trump has done. But this prevents them from enforcing domestic policies, meaning they cannot detain people, they cannot arrest people. Look here, the act does not prevent the Army or National Guard under state authority from acting in law enforcement capacity within its home, state, and adjacent, invited by the state's governor. See this? The act does not prevent the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard under state authority from acting in law enforcement capacity within its home state if invited by the state's governor. So because Trump did not get permission from Gavin Newsom to send in the military, because of that, these National Guard members and these Marines legally cannot participate in law enforcement. They cannot stop you from protesting. What they can do is shoot to kill, okay? So the only thing that Trump can do to give the Marines and give the National Guard the ability to detain and arrest is this: invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. This will give the President of the United States the power to nationally deploy the United States military, to federalize the National Guard, and to suppress civil disorder or insurrection. This Insurrection Act, it provides a statutory exemption to the Posse Comitatus Act. See? So if he invokes the Insurrection Act, the Posse Comitatus Act is overpowered. And now the United States military could enforce civil or criminal law. It is martial law. That is what this is. That is what this is. Does that make more sense? I feel like that was a pretty good way of explaining it.
Fails, unquote. That, I think, sums up the Democratic message, or at least the emerging one about as well as anything I've seen.
On Capitol Hill this morning, Sahil, Pete Hegseth is going to be under oath for the first time as Secretary of Defense. He's testifying about the department's budget that is yet to be submitted. What can we expect from his appearance?
A few things. This hearing kicks off in a little over 2 hours. It's a House Appropriations Subcommittee, so the nominal topic here is the budget that President Trump submitted to Congress, totaling about $1 trillion for the Pentagon between the appropriations process and that separate reconciliation bill that gives a huge infusion of cash. The Republican chair will be Ken Calvert. The Democratic ranking member will be Betty McCollum, because remember, it's a subcommittee. Hegseth is testifying alongside the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and his special assistant. Now, these hearings nominally, again, about the budget, but they tend to be an everything bagel sort of hearing about all the things that are in the news, all the criticisms and the grievances. We should expect things like Signalgate to come up. We should expect some of the chaos at the Pentagon and the hiring decisions to come up as well, as and in addition to, of course, the deployment of Marines to Los Angeles, which is a huge topic right now, guys.
Sahil, thank you.
NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us now with more analysis on all this. John, let's stick with Pete Hegseth there. So far, the White House has stood behind him through a few scandals, from the Signalgate group chat leaks, which Sahil just mentioned, to reports about a chaotic management style. Is there a sense these hearings this week could be make or break for Hegseth?
It's interesting, Joe. I think certainly there's the possibility that Pete Hegseth could break himself in these hearings. I'm not sure he can make himself. He's already been confirmed as Secretary of Defense. This is the first time these lawmakers are going to be able to question him about a variety of scandals and actions by the Trump administration. He basically has a pretty low bar to get through a congressional hearing. Most cabinet secretaries are able to do that. But I do think that there's some peril for him here.
John, to turn back to what's happening in California, we've heard from Democrats like New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. They've been pointing out the fact that the president did not personally deploy the National Guard during the storming of the Capitol on January 6th, and yet now he's ordered this major response to California, even though there was not that request from state leaders. What about Republicans on this particular point? How do they feel about the optics of this in comparison to the Capitol riot?
Yeah, Savannah, it's all partisan. The Republicans don't want to talk about January 6th. Donald Trump certainly doesn't think January 6th was a bad thing. He obviously pardoned all of the people who were, or almost all of the people who were convicted of crimes related to January 6th. I think he looks at the opportunity to declare a rebellion or an insurrection, as he has been calling what's going on in Southern California. Looks at that as an opportunity to sort of muddy the water on January 6th. And Democrats look at this and say, why didn't you care about protesters injuring police at the Capitol when they were trying to keep Trump in office? And the answer is because they were trying to keep Trump in office. That's
this budget. This budget makes meaningful investments in our service members and their families,
guys,
improving
this is
quality
important.
of life, housing, medical care,
Pete Hegseth.
moving process.
This is the first time Pete Hegseth has been questioned while under oath. Okay? Most of the things you've been seeing of like the Senate hearings, like all the confirmation stuff, this type of stuff, none of those people were under oath. So what this means now is that if Pete Hegseth lies under oath, he will be charged with perjury, right? That'll be an additional charge.
In conclusion, it's an honor every day to serve alongside some of the most extraordinary warriors, civilian teammates, and families that our nation has ever known.
What is this? Yeah, by the way, guys, if you're new here, hi, I'm Chris Valenti. I'm your perfect and humble leader. I'm a New York douchebag with a bachelor's degree and a major in history and a minor in political science. I hate fascists. I fucking hate fascists, and I really want to have children. I refuse to raise children in a fascist nation, so I have spent every last fucking moment of energy I have. Why are they getting rid of it now? I've spent every oh, she dropped it, dumb bitch. Every last moment I have trying to dismantle the rise of fascism in my nation. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It costs you nothing and it helps me immensely. Always remember, this is what real independent media looks like. It looks like some asshole trying to deal with a barking dog and a cat who's biting his fucking ankles at the moment, while streaming on a Logitech camera from a fucking shitty Lenovo laptop. Alright? I don't want you to expect diddly shit from me other than the truth. You don't got to expect diddly fucking shit from me other than the truth. You don't got to expect me to comb my hair. You don't got to expect me... Beans, you don't got to expect me to fucking spin some story. All you got to expect me to do is tell you the fucking truth. Hi, Beans. Come here, my mom. Oh, he brought me his string. He brought me his string. He just wants to play. Let's see if I can get him to climb up on top of the chair. Jesus Christ. Now Luigi's getting involved. Luigi. Look at how tiny this room is in actuality. Is this... What the... Bro, everything's a show.
Hang out with the speaker.
Everything's a show.
Mr. Speaker.
Take your Gabe to work.
Oh, we're in a good mood this morning. So good morning, everyone. Let me just start with the mayor of Los Angeles and the governor of California. Actually messed around and found out. They messed around with the lives of Americans.
Fuck around and find out, you dumb
made
cunt.
their sanctuary cities safe for illegals. And they messed around when they also allowed violent protesters to attack law enforcement agents. Now they're finding out the hard way what it looks like to actually restore law and order. President Trump will not let the extreme and violent protesters tear our country apart. Burning cars, attacking police officers while wearing masks and waving other countries' flags. This will not be tolerated. To the Democrats calling these peaceful protests, shame on you. Do these look like peaceful protests to you?
They are.
Like a place
Yes,
where
they
you'd
do.
Send your child, maybe Sunday school? Is there anyone in this room that can tell me this is what a peaceful protest looks like?
Me.
Come on.
I can.
We need to start correcting the truth with the other half of the truth and making the Democrats own this is a peaceful protest.
Where was this fucking reaction on January 6th, you wrinkle-faced, evil fucking cunt?
For this violence and lawlessness. Democrats have demonized law enforcement agents and ICE agents for years. They have enabled this unacceptable behavior. Remember, the Democrats are the ones that demanded that we defund the police. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you get when you defund the police.
They didn't defund the fucking police in California, you lying fucking cunt.
ICE. Well, guess what? ICE is the one that protects us for, in the Democrats' eyes, these peaceful protests. ICE agents protect law-abiding American citizens. Gangs are a threat to our communities. ICE agents are on the front lines detaining and deporting violent, illegal aliens, many of whom, may I remind you, are sex offenders, murderers,
like Donald
human
Trump,
traffickers, and gang members. But are we really surprised that these are who the Democrats defend? Of course not. Democrats continue to defend an alleged human smuggler, calling him just a man from Maryland. Just like the left wants you to believe that this is a typical weekend in Los Angeles. Nothing to see here, right? Kind of makes you think for a moment. Isn't it ironic, think about this, that those protesting the deportations of violent, illegal aliens
throwing rocks off bridges in LA and destroying police cars isn't peaceful? They didn't destroy any police cars. They destroyed fucking Waymo cars that are driverless vehicles. And they didn't throw any rocks in LA until the fucking National Guard was deployed for no reason without the permission of the governor. That is an escalation by the Trump regime.
To leave. But enough is enough. The riots in Los Angeles this weekend underscore the need for the Senate to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill. ICE needs our help. They need more resources to deport and detain violent, illegal aliens. And now I want to turn it over to a gentleman from Colorado who knows this too well, Mr. Gabe Evans. Thank you. I'll move the box.
That is one of the most disgusting cunts I've ever seen. Fuck that scraggly
Thank you, Chairwoman.
bitch.
Thank you, Speaker, for grabbing the box there. Gabe Evans, Colorado's 8th Congressional District, and I'm here today because of my resolution that passed the House yesterday with broad bipartisan support condemning the anti-Semitic, firebombing, terrorist attack that occurred in Boulder, Colorado, which is about 20 miles away from my house where I live. I'm here today because 15 people and a dog were burned by an individual with known jihadi-leaning affiliations who is illegally present in the United States and who was denied a firearm purchase when he tried to buy a gun in November of last year. And so, of course, the very first thing in this situation is our thoughts and our condolences, of course, go out to the victims and to the Jewish community that are suffering from this rising anti-Semitism. But more than that, we have to ask ourselves, why?
Because
why
of
is
Israel.
this happening?
Because
Thoughts
of
and
Israel.
Condolences aren't enough.
Because
And for
Israel's
me,
committing
that's
a genocide.
Personally, very meaningful. Because of my background, I spent 12 years in the U.S.
Incorrect,
Army.
Steve.
I deployed overseas to a combat zone as part of the global war on terror when my oldest son was 5 months old. I didn't get back until he was 18 months old. I missed every first steps, first words, first Christmas, first birthday. Then I served another 10 years in law enforcement with the city of Arvada, which is a major suburb just to the west of Denver, immediately south of Boulder,
let me also say one
Colorado.
thing, guys.
I've responded as both a national...
There is no such thing as a successful, peaceful protest. Never in history has there been a peaceful revolution, a peaceful rebellion, or a peaceful protest that actually led to change. Never once in human fucking history. If you want there to be some sort of change, you've got to fucking push the envelope a bit.
Public statements prior to his admission into the United States, sympathizing with an
Civil rights
organization
movement
with
was
jihadist-
violent. Do you think that violence being committed on protesters is not a form of violence? When the police commit an act of violence on protesters, that's violence. That's violence. I don't think we should be violent, though, Chris. Then you don't want anything to change. Then you do not want anything to change.
leaning tendencies at a time of heightened anti-Semitism, goes and he tries to buy a gun last November, is denied, and that doesn't pop up on anyone's radar. There's no ability to intervene or interdict or at least figure out what's going on here, put this to a little bit more scrutiny. As a cop and a soldier for 22 years, I know that we should be doing that. That was literally the point of the 9/11
How did Martin
Commission
Luther King
after
do
the
it? He didn't. He was shot through the fucking head and killed. That's violence. He didn't complete his job. Black people are still living under the boot of the federal government. We still have systemic racism. Yeah, thank you for using him as an example.
September 11th terrorist attacks, which says that to be able to identify and intervene before terrorism occurs in the United States, federal, state, and local law enforcement need to be able to share information. We need to have all of the pieces of the puzzle together, and when some of those reside with local law enforcement, state officials, and federal authorities, if they cannot share that information, then we're trying to put together a puzzle without all of the pieces, and that makes it difficult to be able to identify and intervene before.
Thank you for the $5 donation. Dude is advocating for gun
And
laws.
unfortunately,
Yep.
in my
They're
Colorado,
literally
which
advocating
is
for
a
gun
sanctuary
regulation
state
and red
that
flag laws
prohibits
because
at
of
times
Israel.
state
Hey,
and local law
MAGA
enforcement from
chuds,
being
just so
able to
you
work with
understand,
federal
they're
authorities,
coming for your
elevating
guns now.
conversations that make
They're
our
coming
communities
for your
safe.
guns.
That is the point of the resolution last night, and to be personally attacked by the minority leader of the other party for elevating that conversation when 75 of his own members stood with me, that is the politicization of a tragedy. And so, from the bottom of my heart to the Jewish community, we stand with you. From the bottom of my heart to Americans and to Coloradans who right now are suffering from the second most dangerous state in the country, we are focused on solutions to prevent things like this from happening again. And to my Democrat colleagues, including Representative Neguse, who stood with me and voted for this resolution last night, thank you. Thank you for helping to elevate this conversation that is focused on solutions to make sure that we keep our communities safe and that we, in no uncertain terms, condemn anti-Semitic attacks, and that we thank the law enforcement officials who are working so tirelessly to keep us safe from all of the bad folks that are out there and that do have malicious intent to cause harm to Americans, to Coloradans, and unfortunately to the Jewish community. Thank you so much. Yield back.
Thank you, Gabe. There's a theme this morning. Rocks thrown at law enforcement. Cars and American flags set on fire. Fireworks thrown into the streets. Foreign flags waving proudly above our own. we are witnessing mayhem, chaos, and disorder in the streets of Los Angeles. All because the Trump administration is enforcing federal immigration law and protecting Californians where the previous administration and their local leaders have repeatedly failed. The violence against ICE officers can also clearly be attributed to the delusional, inflammatory rhetoric spawned by the left, including the words of my own incompetent and partisan governor, Timmy Walz, who recently called immigration authorities, quote, the modern-day Gestapo.
They are.
With taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens and inflammatory rhetoric for law enforcement, Walz has turned my home state of Minnesota into a sanctuary state. And this week, he's going to answer to Congress for his failures. As Walz testifies before the House Oversight Committee on Thursday, House Republicans are working to mitigate the disastrous consequences of mass illegal immigration and the policies like Tim Walz who encourage it. Need to support our ICE agents and law enforcement officers on the ground with the tools they need to carry out their vital mission. That is why we must get the one big beautiful bill across the finish line. Our bill includes funding for 10,000 more ICE officers and HSI criminal investigators to protect our communities and at least 1 million deportations of illegal aliens annually. The time is now to restore law and order, enforce our nation's immigration laws, and hold leaders who are not leading, that refuse to lead, I should say, to do so and be accountable. With that, I turn it over to our leader.
Thank you, Whip. And anybody who watched these just inflammatory scenes roll out in Los Angeles over the weekend, see one more example why we need to pass the one big beautiful bill and why we need to get it to President Trump's desk as soon as possible. One of the many great provisions in this bill that we came together to pass through the House.
Why are they all old? Because the United States is a gerontocracy.
Our ICE agents and our Border Patrol agents to get more resources, to get more support, hiring more Border Patrol agents and more ICE agents. Frankly, it's one of the reasons that every single Democrat voted no on the bill, because they want open borders. They want the chaos and the mayhem that comes with sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that we've been standing up against.
They cannot.
They had the opportunity to join us, and they deliberately chose to vote no because they want higher taxes, they want open borders, they want to close off our energy resources, all the things that were in that bill. And so we're going to continue moving forward. The Senate is doing their work now, and I'm confident the Senate is going to move through quickly to get that bill through the Senate, ultimately back to the House for any minor changes, and then to the President's desk so that we can hire those additional Border Patrol agents, hire those additional ICE agents to keep Americans safe. And by the way, if you're a citizen of the state of California, while your governor is failing you miserably, at least we have a president, Donald Trump, who is willing to say that he will step up and try to protect those same people, law-abiding people who are sick and tired of the lawlessness. They are disgusted by a foreign flag being waved in an American city and their governor defending the people that are actually burning down the city, trying to call it a peaceful protest. Don't insult the intelligence of the American people. They see what's happening. They know why it's happening. The far left Democrat Party wants open borders. There was an election run on this. The American people said enough is enough. We want secure borders, and that's why they sent Donald Trump and a Republican House and Senate to Washington. And we're going to keep fighting for those families who are sick and tired of what they're seeing in cities like Los Angeles and other lawless cities in America. So we're going to deliver on our promise. One more really positive thing that came out just a few days ago, the White House's Office of Management and Budget did their assessment on the House's version of the One Big Beautiful Bill and confirmed what we knew, that with the economic growth you'll get, with the job creation, the increased wages for families, we will end up seeing about $1.5 trillion.
I can't watch any more of this propaganda.
In the national
state-sponsored propaganda.
They'll continue to be a critical asset to deter adversaries, sustain the advantage we have in undersea domain, and the Defense Department should continue to support these programs. What is the status of the department's investments in submarine programs?
14% increase in FY26 on the Columbia, and a substantial increase in the Virginia as well. So we're ensuring a submarine industrial base that has been left behind, that has been neglected, is fully invested.
We
to
have
make sure
funded
we're
the
speeding
submarine
up on
base
funding
here.
the submarines.
Oh my God.
More than half, and you can go back to last December, but I want to move on. Do you know where our submarine production currently stands, and whether current production is sufficient to bridge the gap between current fleet size and projected need?
There is a gap, but we believe we are closing it, ma'am. Yes.
And if you can get to us the information about how, in fact, that you can close that gap, because we do not have any information or data that can substantiate what you're saying. Your department's initial budget proposal includes incremental funding for the Columbia-class submarine. Is that going to raise alarm bells across the defense industrial base by signaling a lack of commitment to the program?
No, we could not, ma'am. We could not be more committed to Columbia. The centrality in the triad, ensuring it delivers on time, it's central to the deterrent and the base of the United States. So
do you know
very
how much of
committed
a
to that.
financial hole this will create for the defense industrial base? Will there be a financial hole for the defense industrial base in 2026?
Certainly not based on our projections. There is not a hole. We're investing in Columbia robustly.
Okay, without numbers, it's my understanding the department is planning to move $3.1 billion for the Columbia class from 2026 and spread it over 2027 and 2028.
You guys hear the ships honking in the water? Those fucking horns are so goddamn loud.
Can't speak about the 15% because it's subject to litigation, so I'm not going to, I don't want to get into
a great exhibit to show what is happening. A picture's worth 10,000 words, of course. You know, while the rioters have been burning police cars and looting storefronts and physically assaulting law enforcement officers, it's important to remember how we got to this point, to this level of chaos, because this didn't happen overnight. 4 quick points to make us all remember. You know, we're in a busy news cycle and people sometimes forget the facts, but the Biden administration welcomed maybe as many as 20 million illegal aliens across that border and into our country in a 4-year period. Sanctuary states like California rolled out the welcome mat. They embraced it. They offered aliens protection from federal law enforcement. Think of it. They're on the wrong side of the law. And they provided them with health care and housing and taxpayer-funded benefits. It's truly almost unbelievable, incredible.
None of that is true, by the way.
What these Democrat leaders of these cities and states have done. President Trump delivered on an ironclad mandate from the American people, and just as we said throughout the entire Biden administration disaster, the law always allowed the president to stop it, and President Trump did it with bold visionary leadership. He stopped the invasion of our country, and he engaged in the largest mass deportation effort in U.S. history. We're in the midst of that right now. Rioters, acting on the words of politicians like AOC and Hakeem Jeffries, are trying to stop this effort by burning storefronts and endangering the lives of patriotic law enforcement officers. The contrast cannot be any more clear. Time and time again, innocent, hardworking Americans have been harmed by the failed leadership of Democrat governors like Gavin Newsom. President Trump was absolutely right to send in the National Guard and to clean up for the governor's failures. You know, Gavin Newsom's been in this effort for the last several months to try to reinvent himself, to rebrand himself, okay? It's pretty difficult to do when your state is a safe haven to violent, criminal, illegal aliens, and you're the one at the helm. You can't hide this stuff. The President of the United States has a responsibility to maintain law and order, particularly when the lives and livelihoods of federal law enforcement officers are threatened. What we're doing there with the federal forces is we are protecting federal buildings and property and personnel. And the president is showing strong leadership in doing so. Because, you know, it's those men and women, the federal law enforcement officers, who deserve our support right now. And the one big beautiful bill, by the way, as Leader Scalise noted, delivers much needed reinforcements. In this bill, we have funding to hire a minimum of 10,000 new ICE agents. We're going to provide a $10,000 bonus to Border Patrol and ICE agents on the front lines. We're going to include $45 billion to expand ICE detention capacity and $14.4 billion for air and ground transport to carry out at least 1 million deportations every single year. We'll have to do that for quite some time because they let so many people in. We're starting with the dangerous illegal aliens, and that is exactly who the rioters and the politicians in California are trying to protect.
You already deported all the dangerous, violent, undocumented immigrants. You already did that.
Democrats are fighting for those illegal aliens and against law enforcement agents. They're defending the violent anti-ICE protesters in L.A. They visited a violent MS-13 gang member and human trafficker in El Salvador. They charged an ICE facility and clashed with ICE officers. That was members of the House of Representatives doing that. They're advocating for people to dox ICE agents and making them targets for threats from radicals. And they're calling for the elimination of ICE. Don't forget what ICE stands for. People get caught up in the acronyms or lost in the acronyms. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, okay? It is to enforce federal law. It is to enforce a secure border. And the Democrats want to defund that. Just let
No,
that
not
settle
defund
on
it.
you.
Abolish.
They're even trying to hide it. And they're not even trying to hide it.
Abolish.
They're openly advocating for illegals instead of American citizens. I don't know. We could talk about this all morning, and we have. Let me move on. With regard to the business in the House this week, the House will vote to approve the White House's request to claw back $9.4 billion in wasteful spending. $8.3 billion of that is wasteful foreign aid with all the atrocities that DOJ uncovered in USAID. And $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Why do you want to
That's,
abolish
PBS
ICE? Because they
NPR.
are a terrorist organization.
These are common sense cuts, and I think every member of this body should support it. It's a critical step in restoring fiscal sanity and beginning to turn the tides of removing fraud, waste, and abuse from our government. Have you checked the public opinion polls? That's what the American people want, and they demand and deserve, and we're going to do it. I read some of the greatest hits last week out of this, but I just want to list a few more examples, okay? Last week he gave you some of the real high level, high number amounts, but these are lower dollars, but they matter. Listen to this, $33,000 we're going to cut. That was being used for, quote, being LGBT in
No, the fuck it is not.
No kidding.
Hey,
American
real quick,
taxpayers are funding
if a whole bunch of
$8,000
masked men who refuse to identify themselves came to you armed to the fucking teeth and kidnapped you, would you consider them terrorists?
in Madagascar. You'll notice these aren't particularly expensive examples of wasteful spending, but compared to these other massive categories of government bloat. But I list those because it's an illustration here. Every dollar matters. We are serious about this. The Republican Party is doing everything we can to be careful stewards of the precious treasure of the people. And the Democrats want to waste it and send it to their NGO pet projects and just all this crazy stuff. We're not going to fund our transgender operas in Peru anymore. Once we found that out, we had a responsibility to go stop it, and we will. This rescission package is a critical step, and it's one of many. There'll be several of these that will come from the White House. We'll work together with the administration to cut out all the fraud, waste, and abuse. We're fighting a multi-front war against the deficit. Don't get lost in this, okay? This is a multi-step process. I've tried to explain on all the interviews I've done over the last couple of weeks. The One Big Beautiful Bill is going to reduce spending by over $1.6 trillion, as has been noted this morning.
That's not
The
true
rescission
whatsoever. It
package
increases the
will
deficit by
rescind
$2 trillion.
$9.4 billion in wasteful spending, the first of many of those. The annual appropriations process will allow Republicans to further codify DOJ cuts and spend less money and be careful stewards of each dime. And the revenues found
Feel like
from the
fact checking that
President's
trans in
tariff
Peru?
agenda will
I don't
also
need to
reduce
fact
the
check it.
deficit
It's a
by
lie.
$2.8 trillion over 10
It's
years.
a lie.
This is real.
USAID was not funding any sort of transgender operations in Peru.
Can't
If
make
you
deficits
need to fact check that, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot.
Fiscal house in order and do right by the taxpayers. We're chipping away at it every day, and the rescissions vote on Thursday is an important signal. House Republicans are serious about getting our fiscal house in order, and we'll do that. All right, let me take a few questions. Front row.
Speaker Johnson, the president said, possibly in jest, that if he were Tom Homan, he would arrest Gavin Newsom. Do you believe that Newsom should face consequences in a legal way?
That's not my lane. I'm not going to give you legal analysis on whether Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered. I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing.
But he ought to be tarred and feathered.
The administration and the carrying out of federal law, right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to. He's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected but assaulted. This is a serious problem, and
That's
the
Trump's
governor
playbook.
is now.
Brother,
following
if I said I
lawsuit.
saw a fucking unicorn, would you need to fact check it?
President, what a joke. Do your job, man. That's what I tell Gavin Newsom. Do your job. Stop working on your rebranding and be a governor. Stand up for the rule of law. He's not doing that. So I don't know what the ultimate measure will be there, but I know that in the interim time, the President of the United States is showing real leadership, and we're not going to allow LA to burn. We've seen this movie before, right? This thing gets out of hand real quickly, especially in a big city like that. And if local and state officials are unwilling or unable to do their job, the President of the United States will do his, and we support that fully. Yes, ma'am, in the middle.
What is the administration's response to Mexican President Sheinbaum's refusal to condemn the riots in LA? And does this affect President Trump's relationship with Sheinbaum?
I don't know. You have to ask the White House that. I mean, I gotta handle our affairs over here. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What is your reaction to Congresswoman Maxine Waters repeatedly saying that there has been no violence in the LA riots? And do you believe that Democrats are making a mistake by not talking about what's really going on here?
Clearly, the Democrats are making a mistake by taking the wrong side here, and I'm just going to, in my southern gentlemanly way, say bless her heart to Maxine Waters. I don't even know how to comment on Maxine Waters anymore. It's madness. I'm going to be charitable and leave it right there. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I saw a CNN reporter got detained.
And no tax on overtime could be scaled back from the One Big Beautiful Bill if they aren't viewed as pro-growth. Have you talked to some senators that are skeptical of that, like Senator Johnson? And you said before that there isn't a plan B, but if that does come back to the House without these provisions, is it time to go back to the drawing board?
Well, look, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime are big promises the president made to the people, and we all echoed that on the campaign trail. I've talked to my good friend, Senator Ron Johnson, multiple times, most recently, I think it was last night or night before last, it was on Sunday, because he was on some shows and I was on some shows and we were comparing notes. And I told him, look, we all agree with our Senate colleagues who believe we need to cut more and more government waste, fraud, and abuse, obviously. But I told him, reminded him of the reality of the delicate balance we have in the House and the fact that we have a very broad caucus and we have, got 170 additional personalities to deal with than they do in the Senate, and it takes a while to meet this equilibrium point. So, look, I think the promise on no tax on tips and no tax on overtime is very important to the president. It's very important to hardworking Americans. What we're so proud of.
Yeah, listen, guys, if you think the federal government is funding transgender operations even in this nation, you're a fucking idiot. The federal government doesn't fund anything, let alone fucking transgender operations in Peru.
The Republican Party is the party of the working class, and we are demonstrating that with our legislation.
You are not the party of the working class, bro. That's why you're destroying Medicaid, Medicare, Social Securities, and SNAP.
But for hardworking folks, a lot of them, millions and millions of Americans, that is a big thing to them, and I think it's an important promise for us to keep.
Last question.
Mr. Speaker. Switching gears a bit, the FACE Act. It's right now being marked up in the Judiciary Committee. Plan to bring it to the floor, and the importance for the Republican Party and leadership of bringing this to the floor.
Yeah, look, it's a big commitment of ours. Applaud Chairman Jim Jordan and the Judiciary. He always does a great job handling that. It's a big priority. We have to protect free speech. We've got to protect, what are actual peaceful protests. And we got to stand for our core principles. I think all that's wrapped up in that legislation, and I expect it will go well, and I expect we'll pass it through the House when it comes through committee. So, one last question. Yeah.
Just running back to the other protests.
Yes.
Is there a red line for congressional Republicans regarding the President Trump's use of executive authority to say deploy better law enforcement?
They're burning cars. How's that not out of control? They're burning Waymo cars, which are driverless vehicles. But real quick, David, was January 6th out of control? Yes or no?
Look, I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals, but I've said very clearly, I was sitting next to the President at the White House yesterday when some of these questions were asked. He is fully within his authority right now to do what he is doing, and we have to maintain order. It's the number one job, think of it, y'all. The number one job of government is to protect the citizenry from foreign threats and domestic threats. And federal law
exactly,
enforcement
Donald
is doing
Trump
their
is the
job. Those are
domestic threat.
heroes. And we've got to protect them, and federal employees as well, and federal buildings and property. We're not going to let violent criminals destroy the property of U.S. taxpayers. President Trump
I don't support January 6th, but here's my question. Was January 6th an insurrection, yes or no?
Thank you.
There's nothing you can do to help us, Scandi historian, not from Europe. The only nation powerful enough to destroy the United States of America is the United States of America, and you are watching it happen in front of your own fucking eyes.
Oh, wait, hold on.
All right. You guys aren't under arrest because you're with press, okay?
Okay.
But we have to take you out of the circle. We're going to direct you in the direction that you need to go.
Okay.
Do not come back, okay?
Do not come back.
Do not come back, okay?
Okay, got
You'll
it.
be arrested.
Got it.
All
This
right?
is the crew right here. Let's go.
Get your whole crew over here. Get your whole crew right here.
Yep, this is it.
We're going to take them all out one at a time, so you guys all catch up at the other end.
Walk straight down this way?
We're going to walk. Officers are going to walk you down that way, okay?
Okay.
So what I need from you is to put your hands behind your back. They're going to walk you.
Ed, you can get the star next to your name by becoming a member. Ed, if you're on an iPhone, there won't be a join button because Apple takes like 30% of every purchase on the App Store. So somebody send him the link to become a member. Anything about the LA to Denver riots? I'm from Denver. I'm not sure if it's true. I haven't heard anything about Denver riots.
How are you? I'm well, thank you. How are you? Yes.
Jason Carroll, I've got you on the line. Jason,
Thank you for becoming a
what's
loyalist.
happening right now? Where are
Appreciate
you?
that, Mr. Cigarette. Why don't they fly American
I'm
flags,
outside
fly
the
Mexico flags? Because it's Los Angeles, formerly Mexico, and there's fucking millions of Mexicans there. And in the United States of America, we have people from all different cultures. Maybe because they're rounding up Mexicans.
Laura. Again, I think you heard John Miller explain it, and I think he explained it best. As I was walking over to the officer, tried to explain who I was, identified who I was with. I turned. He said, "I'd like you to turn around." I turned around and put my
Illegals only. Hold on, David. Do you actually think that every single person protesting in LA is an illegal immigrant? Is that what do you actually think that, David? You think every single protester is an illegal immigrant? No, but they're attacking ICE. No, they're not. One person has been charged for attacking an ICE officer. One person. Why are you lying? Why are you lying? Why are you lying?
They did not put me in zip ties, but they did grab both of my hands as I was escorted over to the side. They said, "You are being detained while we lead you out of this area. You are not allowed to be in this area." So they took me over to the side. They took down my name. They asked me where I was from. They get your basic information. And I said,
wasting your time arguing with these folks? I'm not arguing with them. I'm just pointing out how stupid they are. There's no point in arguing with these people.
He said, "No, you're not being arrested. You're being detained." And so there's that. As press, these are some of the things that you take a lot of risks as press. This is low on that sort of scale of risks, but it is something that I wasn't expecting, simply because we've been out here all day. I've covered any number of protests, and normally there's the officers put the press, realize that the press is there doing a job, so to speak. And but again, this is what happened. It did not last long. Felt a little longer than what it was, but there you have it. But we are now out.
The deployment of 700 Marines, along with a further 2,000 National Guard members to Los Angeles, has been authorized by US President Donald Trump after protests against stepped-up immigration enforcement continued. A convoy of 10 to 15 buses with blacked-out windows, escorted by sheriff's vehicles, was seen leaving a military base in the California desert in the early hours of the morning, heading closer to the city. The additional National Guard deployment brings the number of troops to around 4,000, despite protests on Monday being much more peaceful than the days before. Trump defended his decision to deploy the troops, claiming California leadership
Look
had
at
been
Pam
afraid.
here, dumb cunt. A lot of these people were paid to right by the Democrats. They don't want law and order. What country allows people to move in and not be vetted? This was a pre-planned riot and Newsom does nothing. How's your fucking brother husband, you inbred fucking cunt? Dumb bitch.
Of doing anything to tackle unrest.
You had a disaster happening. And they now admit it was a disaster. I watched the chief yesterday, who's a good man, by the way. And he said, well, we're lucky we did this because
Chris, let's be
they
respectful.
were over.
I am not respectful towards fascists. If you are in support of deploying the fucking United States Marines to shoot at peaceful protesters, you will not get my fucking respect. I will tell you to get on your knees and suck my fat cock. You do not deserve respect, let alone fucking oxygen.
Overwhelmed. You saw what was happening. So we did the right thing. Everybody agrees to that.
But officials in LA have disagreed with Trump's approach, pushing back against the deployment of troops and federal intervention, calling it a deliberate attempt to create disorder and chaos.
It was very
You are a
predictable
fascist,
what was
David.
gonna happen
You
here,
might
and
be
it was
too stupid to know that you're a fascist, but you are a fascist. Here, let me ask you one question to find out if you're a fascist, David. Let me ask you one question. Watch this. All right. David, do you support exiling United States citizens born on U.S. soil to a slave labor camp in El Salvador? Yes or no? Only answer in yes or no, or I will immediately fucking ban you. Do you support exiling United States citizens to a slave labor camp in El Salvador? No? Okay, your president does. So here, first you're going to watch this.
Supporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens but are criminals to El Salvador. Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized Americans?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, yeah, that includes them. What, do you think there's a special category of person? They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too. And I'm all for it. Because we can do things with the president for less money and have great security. And we have a huge prison population. We have a huge number of prisons, and then we have the private prisons, and some are operated well, I guess, and some aren't. But he does a great job with that. We have others that we're negotiating with too. But no, if it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem.
So, David, do you change your mind now that your God King Führer Trump says it's okay? So I'm going to ask you again, now that you've seen the Führer say this, do you support what Trump is saying, which is exiling U.S. citizens to a slave labor camp in El Salvador? Now that you've seen your God King say it, are you going to support it, or are you going to stand by your word? Do you support it now? I'm willing to bet you support it now. I'm willing to bet money that you support it now.
completely unnecessary. I would say stop the raids. Stop the raids, period. I would say give the power back to our governor, and if we need the National Guard, we can do it in the normal circumstances, which is the request is made local and the governor decides or not to grant that to our city.
Pushback has even gone so far as to prompt California Attorney General Rob Bonta to file a lawsuit against the Trump administration, claiming it had trampled the state's sovereignty. The protests in Los Angeles, while intense, have also been brief and have been relatively small when compared to the city as a whole, where life has largely continued as normal. Solidarity protests have been held in other major cities by union members in New York and Boston, and protesters standing off against police in Dallas and Austin.
For a fourth day, they gathered outside a federal detention center in downtown Los Angeles. A wall of the National Guard protecting the building, a wall of the police pushing the protesters back. After a long weekend, the streets of LA were far quieter. Some clashes were replaced with dancing. And yet that didn't alter the approach of Donald Trump.
Some of the things you're reading about in Los Angeles, thank goodness we sent out some wonderful National Guard. They've really helped, and a lot of problems they were having out there.
While many demonstrations had dispersed by late evening, the president announced the deployment of an extra 2,000 federalized National Guard, as well as 700 U.S. Marines. The use of active U.S. military on American soil to quell protests is seen as provocative. For his critics in L.A. and the state of California, this is a president who wants fireworks, not peace.
And it makes me feel like our city is actually a test case for what happens when the federal government moves in and takes the authority away from the state or away from local government. I don't think that our city should be used for an experiment to see what happens
if
in
it's
the
legal.
nation's second.
Exactly my point, David. You are a bootlicking cuck. You're in a cult. You said you didn't support it. Then you saw your Führer say that he supports it. Now you support it. You don't have thoughts. You can't come to your own conclusions. You just wait for your God King Daddy Trump to spill a puddle on the floor, and then you, being the servile little dog that you are, you lap it all up like a good little bitch. You're a pathetic fucking oxygen thief. You are the husk of a man. You cannot think for yourself.
Largest city. Well, maybe we can do this.
Lap it up,
cities.
doggy.
As
Good
a convoy
boy.
of Marines
Lap
headed
it up.
towards LA,
You're a good
the
boy,
protests have
David.
begun to spread.
Such a good,
The
loyal
National Guard
servant.
dispersed people in Santa Ana in Orange County. While in Dallas and Austin, Texas, hundreds gathered to protest against raids by immigration officials.
I don't support all things. Yes, you do. You support every single thing Donald Trump has done. There is not one fucking thing that Donald Trump can do that'll make you stop supporting him. You're in a cult. Here, let me ask you this. What about when Trump said he doesn't know whether or not he has to uphold the Constitution? I bet you're going to say he never said that, aren't you? I bet you're going to say he never said that. Show me.
So let's talk about this, because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past, of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this, do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the Attorney General that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, you know, and your attorney general has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court? Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not.
So wait, there's one. I don't know. Hold on. Hey, hold on, David. We're getting there, David. But real quick, that's an important one. David, are all persons in the United States entitled to due process under the Constitution as laid out in the Fourth Amendment? Sorry, the Fifth Amendment. Are all persons in the United States entitled to due process? Yes or no? Only citizens, good old American. Incorrect, David. You're incorrect. All persons, regardless of legal status, are entitled to due process under the Constitution. Are you saying that you disagree with the fucking Constitution? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, David? Are you saying you disagree with the Constitution? If Trump said so. The Constitution says only citizens. No, it doesn't, David. You want me to prove you wrong right the fuck now? You are so fucking incorrect. It's actually pathetic. It's pathetic. "14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process or law." Hey, wait, what does this say? Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. Any person. You're fucking wrong. Person means citizen, buddy? Oh, really? So then why in the Second Amendment do they say only citizens are entitled to bear arms? Why do they clearly make a distinction between the word citizen and person? So wait, according to you, should undocumented immigrants be allowed to have firearms? Hey, David, should undocumented immigrants be allowed to have firearms? Keep on coping, David, you fucking uneducated dipshit. Hold on. Hey, David, should undocumented... No, but. Hold on, dumb fuck. Why shouldn't undocumented immigrants get the right to bear arms? Because you're saying that citizens and persons are the same word, right? Right? That's what you're saying. So you're saying all undocumented immigrants should be allowed to have guns, right? That's what you're saying, David. You stupid fuck. Hey, dumb fuck. Which one is it? No, I never said that. Oh, okay. So hold on, David. Are all persons in the United States citizens? Are all persons in the United States citizens? Yes or no, dumb fuck? No. Oh, okay. So, David, you know that there's a difference between the word citizen and person, right, dumb fuck? You know that there's a difference between the word citizen and person, right, dumb fuck? You know that, right, dumb fuck? You're aware of the difference between those two words, right, dumb fuck? Come on, dumb fuck. Type faster. Yeah, obviously. Okay, so the Second Amendment is just for citizens, right, dumb fuck? Yes or no? The Second Amendment is just for citizens, right, dumb fuck? Yes, of course. Okay, so then here in the fucking 14th Amendment, when it says any person, is this the same thing as a citizen? Yes or no, dumb fuck? Is this the same thing as a citizen? Yes or no, dumb fuck? Maybe I should get due process, but I don't know. Here's the thing. More educated people like me do know. Every constitutional lawyer in the history of the United States does know. People who are so much fucking smarter than you do know. All persons are entitled to due process under the law. Why? Because it says it in the fucking 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. So, final chance here. Final chance here, David. If you answer this incorrectly, you're getting fucking banned and you can go hang out with the goddamn dumb fucking sheep like you are. Are all persons entitled to due process in the United States? Yes or no? Opinions do not matter here. I'm asking you a question and there is a correct answer and an incorrect answer. Are all persons entitled to due process? Yes, of course. Fucking finally! So, let's keep going. Let's hear when Trump says that he doesn't know whether or not he has to uphold the Constitution.
Deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
You hear that? Hey, David, did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what he just said? Or are you just living in a fucking hallucination?
Talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
Did you hear that, David? Did you hear that, David? Did you hear that? Let's play it again for David.
Talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
Hey, David, where'd you go, David? David? Oh, no. Oh, no, David. Oh, no. Oh, no. Your God King, your super patriot, your humble leader, Donald Trump, was just asked, but don't you have to uphold the Constitution? And he said, I don't know. Why don't you proudly say you support this man? David, where'd you go, David? David. Aww. He ran away. He ran away. David.
Even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
Peace out,
I
Jack.
have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me.
Unfucking believable. It's honestly like fucking arguing with a fucking second grader.
Solidarity with those who first began protesting in LA. They were met with tear gas.
Oh, that sucked. It's got tear gas.
For President Trump, these protests will not sway him, given he believes he was voted in on a strict immigration policy. But while Americans approve of Trump's deportation of those in the country illegally, the ramping up of ICE raids is what has caused concern, especially given the administration has admitted they are not rounding up those with criminal records.
Is everyone that has been arrested by ICE agents have a criminal record like those you've described?
Absolutely not.
With the streets of LA quiet on Monday
what did he
and
just
Trump
say?
still deploying yet more national, they are not rounding up those with criminal records.
Is everyone that has been arrested by ICE agents have a criminal record like those you've described?
Absolutely not.
With the streets of LA
Just confident with that one. Okay.
quieter on Monday and Trump still deploying yet more National Guard, Democrats are accusing the president of spoiling for a fight, in particular with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who Trump even threatened to lock up because of his opposition to the White House. In response, Gavin Newsom wrote on X, the president just called for the arrest of a sitting governor. This is a day I hoped I would never see. This is an unmistakable step towards authoritarianism. Vice President J.D. Vance replied, do your job. That's all we're asking. Newsom responded, "Do your job. We didn't have a problem until Trump got involved. Rescind the order, return control to California." But the White House is not backing down, with Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, replying to the governor when the rioters swarmed.
Mr. Homan is doing his job. Why do you insult him? Yo, David, I'm not even going to address that. Are you going to... Hold on, David, are you going to say whether or not... You're going to say anything about that? Are you going to say fucking anything about this? I'm going to bring it back up now that I know you're still fucking here. Thank you for the $5 donation, Captain Insano.
So let's talk about...
Hold on. David, why don't you say something about this?
Even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers.
David, what do you think about that answer?
That you're talking about. Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
David, what do you think about that? Answer the fucking question or get banned immediately. Answer the question in the next 30 seconds or just get banned. What do you think about this? Timer begins right now. 30 seconds or you will get banned. Oh, he answered. Okay, that's bad. All right, second question. 30 seconds or you will get banned. Do you still blindly support this man? I'm going to play this while you answer.
Even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying...
Do you still support this man? You have 20 seconds left on the clock. No, I don't support Trump all the time. That's not what I asked you. I'm going to ask you one more time, 20 seconds on the clock. Do you still support this man? Yes or no? Answer in yes or no. If you type anything else, you're getting banned. Anything else. Anything other than yes or no. Do you still support this man? Yes or no? No? Welcome back to fucking reality.
Again, I have brilliant...
You handed over your streets willingly. You still refuse to arrest and prosecute the arsonists, seditionists, and insurrectionists. This administration is fighting to save the city. Trump both defended his federalization of the National Guard and his belief
Thank you
that
for becoming
Governor
a loyalist,
Newsom
Ren.
had
I
committed a
appreciate that.
crime.
It's lucky for the people in Los Angeles and in California that we did what we did. We got it just in time. It's still simmering a little bit, but not very much. Yeah, please.
Have you gotten arrest? What crime?
YouTube didn't give you a notification because YouTube only gives 3 notifications per creator per 24 hours. I did 2 live streams and a video yesterday, so that was the 3. It'll recycle after 24 hours.
The crime has he committed? I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's...
Hey, hold on. David, I want your opinion on this now, too. David, I want your opinion on this.
People in Los Angeles and in California that we did...
I see my family supports Trump. It's a family tradition to vote for him. If your family has a tradition of voting for somebody, you have a pathetic family. Why don't you vote for what's in your best interest? Why do you vote for tradition? You do understand that the President of the United States is the most powerful man on the planet, right? You do understand that your life is affected by this decision, right? But you vote by tradition? Are you full of a family of mentally impaired dipshits? Is your entire fucking family disabled? Are you a fucking idiot? How stupid is your family? Holy fucking shit. Your entire family is incapable of thinking for themselves? Because my whole family's made me. So you're telling me your entire family is incapable of thinking for themselves and they blindly vote for Donald Trump because that's the family tradition. You are openly admitting that not only are you in a cult, but your entire family is in a cult. Your entire family is in a cult. Brother, I pity you. Your entire family has been destroyed by this man. Your entire family is controlled by this man. David, you're in a cult. Your family is a cult.
Did what we did. We got it just in time. It's still simmering a little bit, but not very much. Yeah, please.
Have you gotten
arrest? What crime has Governor Newsom committed?
So this is because Donald Trump just said he wants to arrest Governor Gavin Newsom. The question is, what crime did he commit? Here's his answer.
A crime has he committed? I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job.
So they're going to arrest him for running for governor. What do you think about that, David? What do you think about that?
What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. And that's pretty bad. It's a wrong philosophy.
But the fact the streets have remained quiet enforces the belief from Trump's critics that he wants to simply exercise more and more power, and why the state of California is now suing the administration.
Trump and Hegseth jumped from 0 to 60, bypassing law enforcement expertise and evaluation. They threw caution to the wind and sidelined strategy in an unnecessary and inflammatory escalation that only further spurred unrest. Let's be very clear, there was no risk of rebellion, no threat of foreign invasion.
Yes, this is how the Republicans operate. Anybody who doesn't blindly support Donald Trump is an anti-American, pro-terrorist, communist, Marxist-Leninist, radical leftist. That's what the Republicans will have you believe, because the Republicans are servile doggies that lap up every single puddle that Trump spills on the floor for them. Republicans cannot think for themselves, except for one, Adam Kinzinger. I don't know, man, I feel like my family would disown me if I ain't vote for Trump. Then your family sucks, and you shouldn't want them. If your family would disown you because you didn't vote for Trump, your family doesn't love you. Let me say this again, because this isn't opinionated. This is a fact. If your family would disown you for not voting for Trump, your family doesn't love you. That's not opinionated. That's a fact. Do you understand? This is literally... No, it isn't. That's not opinion. Love is unconditional. Love is unconditional. If they will throw you to the wolves because you voted for somebody else, that's not love. That's not love. Are you going to argue that that is love? Are you going to try to argue that that is love?
No inability for the federal government to enforce federal laws.
But Trump's desire to intervene was not unpredictable.
No.
He even spoke about it back in 2023 when he was campaigning for re-election, talking about the need to go over the heads of state authorities to deal
Guys, he sounds
with...
like a kid. I don't give a fuck. Hitler was a kid once. I don't give a fuck if you're a kid. If you're a fascist, you will be treated as such. What the who the fuck do you think we're fighting in Berlin? Children. Who do you think were the last line of defense in Berlin? Fucking 13-year-olds with STGs. I don't give a shit.
Democratic cities.
You look at these cities, our great cities are, New York City is a crime den. Chicago is a crime den. You look at these great cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you look at what's happening to our country. We cannot let it happen any longer. And one of the other things I'll do, because, you know, you're supposed to not be involved in that. You just have to be asked by...
David, I know I've been very vitriolic to you, but this is because our nation is crumbling. You can abandon Trump. You can join this family. The OAL, the only Americans left. We have Republicans, Democrats, anarchists, socialists, communists, libertarians. It's not about agreeing blindly like Trump will have you do. It is about understanding that democracy must be protected. And this fucking man is trying to destroy it. You will not be bullied here. You will not be hated here. You will not be forced to agree here. But if there's one damn thing that we all agree on, it's that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy.
The governor or the mayor to come in. The next time
I'm not waiting.
Donald Trump has used his second term to announce emergency after emergency as a strategy to make it easier for him to take decisive action and bypass Congress. He declared one at the...
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry my dad gets very angry sometimes. But all he wants to do is raise a family, raise some kids in a nation where they get to vote. He doesn't want to raise a fucking family in a fascist nation. Sorry he gets a little triggered. I gotta crank the AC. I'm sweating fucking bullets right now. I also need to fill up my coffee and take a piss, so let me get you guys a video.
Straight to Fox News alert, President Trump calling in additional National Guard members and 700 Marines to respond to the violence and anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles.
So let's get to Jonathan Hunt, who's live on the ground in L.A. What's it looking like this morning, Jonathan?
Well, Ainsley, frankly, it is a lot less tense on the streets of downtown L.A. this morning than it was just 24 hours ago. We were standing here in front of the Metropolitan Detention Center yesterday morning talking to you guys. This entire street was blocked off. National Guard troops were stationed right across it. Now, as you see there, there's just a handful of those National Guard troops out the front of the Metropolitan Detention Center. So it is a different situation this morning. You definitely feel a lessening of the tension. Having said that, that is not to say that there were not intense clashes once again last night throughout downtown LA. Thousands of protesters were once again roaming the streets, trying to damage federal buildings. They were stopped from doing so by the National Guard, who ranged themselves in front of a cluster of federal buildings here. And then the LAPD, along with the LA Sheriff's Department, California Highway Patrol, ran a pretty efficient operation, separating those groups from each other, getting them into smaller and smaller groups, effectuating arrests and using tear gas, using flashbang grenades, and in some cases rubber bullets to maintain control. Meantime, U.S. Marines are on the way here. They left their base at 29 Palms yesterday. That's in the Palm Springs area east of Los Angeles. We understood that they staged overnight at Naval Station Seal Beach, but they should be on the streets of L.A. later today. That prompted this ex-post from Governor Gavin Newsom, who said, quote, "The Secretary of Defense is illegally deploying them onto American streets so Trump can have a talking point at his parade this weekend. It's a blatant abuse of power. We will sue to stop this." But given what we saw on Sunday, the very intense clashes, and the slightly less so on Monday, there is an argument that President Trump can make that the deployment of federal resources is working. In the meantime, the search for those engaged in violent acts on the streets of LA goes on. This man has been a particular target. He was seen on video throwing rocks at law enforcement officers. Well, the Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on Hannity last night that they know who he is. Listen here to the Attorney General.
That guy has just been identified, and they are doing a search warrant on his house as we speak. So you can run, you can't hide. We are coming after you federally.
David.
If you assault...
David. Charlie Kirk is not a man you should look up to. David. Hold on. David, quick question. David. Do you have children, David? I think David is here in good faith, actually. David, do you have children? Do you have any young women in your family? A niece, a nephew, a sister? We're talking between like the ages of 8 and 12, like a young girl in your family. Yeah, a younger sister, 9. Perfect. David, if your 9-year-old sister was raped and impregnated by her rapist, would you force her to give birth to the rape baby? Yes or no? No, never? Oh, Charlie Kirk would.
You had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped. And she was going to give birth and she would, no, wait. Oh, and she was going to give birth and she was going to live. Would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
It's no, but it's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
Oh, okay, great. So that's insane.
But let me tell you why. No, hold on.
There's Charlie Kirk for you. There's Charlie Kirk for you. There's Charlie. He really said that. You just listened to him.
A police officer, if you rob a store, if you loot, if you spit on a police officer, we're coming after you.
That man's name is Elpidio Reina. Authorities say they will find him and anyone else who engages in violence. Back to you guys.
All right, Jonathan. You know, it's calm right now. Thank you, Jonathan Hunt, on the scene. It's calm right now. But it's literally, it should be calm right now. It's at 5 in the morning. But I really worry that they're organizing tonight to take on the 700 Marines, the 2,000 National Guard.
4,000 now.
Right, who decides to show up for the LAPD, because what they're doing now is defiling federal property, but they're also shutting down traffic and commerce in this area. At one point, the local officials have to take a stand. They just sit there in their bunker, put on a windbreaker and do a press conference, and they let President Trump basically is forced to take control of this unrest.
Lawrence, this guy that's on the side of the road pelting cop cars with cement, with cinder blocks, they should make him pay for it.
That's exactly
Anyone
right.
who does this vandalism and looting.
He's
got no money.
Because he's throwing the money, he's throwing the blocks.
Take it out of his paycheck.
Windshield.
He should have to pay for those cars to get fixed, not the taxpayers.
All these people claim, a lot of them, that they came to this country for a better life. Meanwhile, they're assaulting our cops, putting their old country's flag up, and causing total mayhem in a once great city. But the leaders aren't doing anything. This is what they're saying.
These are not the people that we were told.
The protests are getting out of hand because they're sending in the Marines and the National Guard. This is what happens when you escalate a problem, not de-escalate it.
We're going to be detained. And it makes me feel like our city is actually a test case for what happens when the federal government moves in and takes the authority away from the state or away from local government. I don't think that our city should be used for an experiment to see what happens in the nation's second largest city. Well, maybe we can do this to other cities.
That's not true, what she's saying. The federal officials were, because you guys didn't want to help them, they asked for the assistance of the local cops there. The politicians said no. They said, we just want to get the criminal aliens who we have final deportation orders for some, and some of them have criminal offenses. We want to go get them. When they came to the city to do their job, your protesters decided that they were going to obstruct. Now they're trying to get into the prison as well. So don't give me this that they're trying to take over L.A. You guys can have L.A. But as it relates to the criminals in there that don't belong in this country, oh, yes, they are going to enforce federal law.
I just don't understand why they don't want help. Why wouldn't they want the National Guard there? Why wouldn't they want 700 U.S. Marines? Those police officers, last night when I was watching our coverage of it, I was like, this crowd is huge. Yeah. There aren't as many police officers as there are individuals that are rioting, and I was worried for their safety. Why wouldn't they want the help?
Look at this.
Right. You know why? Because they say that by putting the National Guard in there, they're making things worse. They also say They also had 35 minutes before the LAPD responded to ICE's request for reinforcements. That's why President Trump is not taking any more risks. And that's why he went to school in Seattle and Portland and Minneapolis and Kenosha. He saw that maybe he could have been acting a little quicker and was talked out of it in his first term. Then he watched these cities burn, and Joe Biden basically...
I do like Trump's tariffs and NATO spending. David, Trump's tariffs are going to make the prices of everything you buy increase. Trump's tariffs are notoriously the stupidest fucking tariff plan in American history. There's a reason why he has pulled back from most of them. Trump's tariffs are terrible. They're atrocious. And him pulling us out of NATO is the weakest we have ever been in our nation's history.
Problem about that, they basically had what's coming to them, and that was not okay.
What about egg prices? Egg prices have gone up. He temporarily lowered the prices of eggs by artificially bringing in 20 million eggs from the nation of Turkey. It was a Band-Aid. The price of eggs is about to skyrocket. The price of everything is about to skyrocket.
Going to make sure that this will not happen. And he's going to make sure that the city will not be out of control. But I think symbolically, and by the way, here's the sheriff of Los Angeles, who when he was in charge, he was actually against this kind of disorder and this looting. Listen to Sheriff Villanueva, who used to have this job in L.A. County.
The worst that we saw on Sunday was absolutely downplayed by the local media, by the politicians. They're all saying, oh, it's largely peaceful. No, it was largely violent. And the concentration of violent activists embedded within people that were just looked like they were trying to peacefully protest was a joke. Because that was you look at the destruction of the CHP cruisers, the shutdown of the 101 freeway. And if you look at the tagging and the broken windows throughout the downtown quarter, it's alarming. Local law enforcement, particularly the sheriff who was responsible for coordinating mutual aid among all these agencies, they were paralyzed in fear about coming to the aid of ICE agents who were under attack. And that right there is the genesis of this entire mess.
Not peaceful at all. They were throwing frozen water bottles at police last night, Molotov cocktails, baseball bats were hidden in the bushes in case they needed them. They were lobbing fireworks at the police and sticks at the police.
Yeah, Seth Moulton says this is what the president wants. It's not what the president wants.
This is exactly what Trump wants. Trump wants this violence. He wants to escalate things. He wants the Marines to shoot people, also that he can consolidate power and declare martial law. This is what Trump has wanted since his first term. He asked to deploy the National Guard. He asked to shoot protesters with live rounds. He asked for this.
In doing this.
We don't want this. The country doesn't want to. I don't want my country to become little Gaza. I don't want my country to become little Mexico. It's great for vacationing, but I don't want the criminals roaming the street, looting Apple.
Why did he not do all this in his first term? Because in his first term, he was surrounded by career politicians, and his own vice president, Mike Pence, cared more about the Constitution than Donald Trump, which is why when Donald Trump asked Mike Pence to falsify the electorate, he refused. He refused. So this time around, Trump is not surrounded by career politicians. He's surrounded by loyalists like Pete Buttigieg, not Pete Buttigieg. He's surrounded by loyalists like Pete Hegseth, who is a Fox News host, like RFK, who is a mentally insane person who was addicted to heroin, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said there were Jewish space lasers burning Hawaii, like Kristi Noem, who said that she doesn't know what due process is. He purposefully has surrounded himself with people who will never betray him the way that they betrayed him in 2020.
Store about immigration.
The only reason the president had to step in is because the local leaders won't do their job.
Still won't.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most...
Welcome back. President Trump ordering 2,000 additional National Guard troops to Los Angeles on top of the 700 Marines sent by the Defense Department as anti-ICE riots enter now a fifth day this morning. Rioters were seen burning and spitting on the American flag while chanting anti-American slogans.
They're putting out the fire.
Police say looting was also taking place. Rioting breaking out coast to coast in New York City. 24 arrests made inside of Trump Tower after demonstrators chanted, "Bring them back." All refused to leave. Joining me now is the mayor of Miami, Florida, Francis Suarez. Mayor, great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. And we wanted to get your take as a man who is leading a successful city of Miami, what you see taking place in Los Angeles. What's your reaction?
It's very sad. This is the United States of America. We believe in law and order. We believe that people have the right to protest, but they should do it in a peaceful way. I remember during the George Floyd protests in the city, we had two very fundamental rules. Number one, if you hurt anybody or if you damage any property or business, you're going to jail. And it was a zero tolerance policy. And because of that, we had very little arrests. And our police department had very, very few confrontations. But you can never, ever allow things to get disordered because once you do that, it sort of slides into anarchy.
I just can't vote for a Democrat traitor, but who is a Democrat traitor? What the fuck are you talking about?
It builds on itself. And of course, it makes absolutely perfect sense that the president would step in. He is the president of the United States. The last thing he wants to see is images like the ones you're showing right now on the screen in the country that he runs. And it's, again, it's embarrassing as a leader of a city or as a governor to see that kind of lawlessness in your jurisdiction.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are getting reports that there is something scheduled nationwide on Saturday, and you've been seeing pockets of rioting in other big cities. Can you give us a sense of what's happening in Miami? Are you expecting any rioters there in Miami?
We've seen some chatter, and we've received some.
They are also bad, Chris, you agree? There are bad Democrats, but you just said you can't vote for a Democrat traitor. Are you implying that every single Democrat in the United States of America is committing treason? Is that what you're... Because if that's what you're implying, David, I don't think I can save you. I think you may be too stupid for your own good.
Some images online about some sort of protest on Saturday. I've had multiple conversations with my police chief, with my COO, to make sure that we are ready, and they've assured me that we are. Like I said, we have experience with these kinds of things. We're a big city, but we're also a city that epitomizes, law and order. And we're a city that will always make sure that the peace of all of our residents.
I don't mean treason lawfully, but I've seen Obama and Biden. You're going to claim that Barack Obama and Joe Biden were traitors. That's your claim? When they quite literally expanded the American empire into the Middle East? Is that genuinely going to be your claim right now, David? Barack Obama and Joe Biden were traitors. Are you serious? Are you serious? Yeah, the drone strike king, the cluster king, they did bad stuff in the Middle East. Yeah, you know what that would make them? Not a traitor. That would mean that they were following U.S. Defense Department protocol and they were furthering the State Department's craving for empire. How the fuck does that make them a traitor? So you're saying Obama and Biden did what the Defense Department told them to? If anything, it makes them war criminals. It does not make them traitors. I meant traitors in an insult, man. Words have meanings, David. Words have meanings. A traitor would have had to betray somebody. So who is Obama and Biden betraying by going to war in the Middle East? Who are they betraying? Who are they betraying? The American people. You mean the American people who disproportionately supported the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan after 9/11? You mean the American people who got Congress to vote on going to war? You mean doing what the American people asked them to do? Is that what you're talking about?
Is being enjoyed because you don't have a few people, some of which oftentimes are paid or are...
Are you defending Obama in the Iraq war, bro? No, you stupid fuck. You said that Obama and Biden are traitors to the nation for going to war in Iraq and Afghanistan. That is literally the State Department's initiative. That is the opposite of being a traitor. They are doing exactly what they were ordered to do. That is the total fucking opposite of the word traitor. Holy shit. Well, I mean, I can't vote for a Democrat then. Then you are in a cult. If you cannot vote for a Democrat because Democrat's bad, then David, nobody can save you. You are incredibly stupid. Nobody can save you. You're in a cult. I can't vote for a Democrat because they're a Democrat. You're a fucking idiot.
Are intentionally trying to create chaos and sow chaos through the kinds of organizations that do that on a regular basis, Antifa, et cetera. We want to make sure that those people don't get a foothold, that they're not able to rabble-rouse and get other people excited, because that's their objective. What happened in Miami
I genuinely have
during
faith.
George Floyd...
I have faith that David was capable of thinking for himself. I take it all back. He's not capable of thinking for himself.
Was the first night they tried those kinds of things. We clamped down. I think we had 50 arrests the first night. And then from that point forward, I think we had 5 arrests on average a day. So, once you demonstrate that you are not going to tolerate, this kind of anarchy, that you're not going to tolerate lawlessness, and that you're doing something about it, and that you're prepared, you'll see the results, and those people will go away, and they'll go somewhere where they think they can have more success.
I mean, look at some of the people that the administration has already arrested. The mainstream media likes to put on this act as if President Trump doesn't want immigration, as opposed to what he's fighting, which is illegal immigration.
Guys, by the way, there's a lot of you in here. I'm sure many of you are here for the first time. I'm Chris Valenti. I'm a New York douchebag. I majored in history. I'm minored in political science. I fucking hate fascism. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Also, this is real independent media. I have no funding, so if you do want to help me financially, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Please consider becoming a member on YouTube. Please consider buying some merch, and please consider using the 40% off discount code on the Vantage subscription for Ground News located in the description below.
Criminality. Some of the people that we've got on this list, a Vietnamese national, known gang member, convicted already of second-degree murder. Arrested in 1994 after participating in cold-blooded murder. You've got another from Mexico, dangerous weapons, and he's armed, already convicted of child molestation. A Filipino national with convictions for rape, assault, burglary, theft. Convictions for sex with a minor, convictions for domestic violence, hit and run, previously arrested for willful cruelty to a child.
Such propaganda. This would hit so hard if I was fucking stupid.
Convictions for burglary, possession of stolen property. The list is long here, but these are the people who have been arrested in Los Angeles just recently. So I'm trying to understand, who is actually rioting? Are these people who came into the country illegally? Or do you think that this is a mix of American citizens as well?
The primary role of any public official, from the president on down to a mayor, is to make sure that your city, your state, or your country is safe. That is our #1 goal. In fact, in the city of Miami, we are right now on pace to have the lowest homicide in recorded history. So since we started recording homicides in the 1940s, so it is literally the safest.
Yes, and proud.
Year on record.
Now, I know that you don't know what socialism is, so you probably are about to accuse me of being a communist.
in the city of Miami. So that is our number one goal. Obviously, after that, you try to take care of everyone economically, make sure that everyone has, affordable housing, and make sure that you have low homelessness. We're an 11-year low in homelessness. But what the president is doing is, he's making sure that Americans are safe. I think the other part that doesn't get discussed enough is the tragedy of illegal immigrants that are trapped.
We have impeached him twice. Impeaching does not remove you from office. When you are impeached, you are supposed to step down. We impeached Donald Trump twice, and he did not step down. Impeachment does nothing to Donald Trump. So, fellow Chris, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the $5, Christopher Gleaning. I appreciate that.
Trafficked or part of human trafficking rings, and also that they're exploited. What happens if you're an illegal immigrant right now?
Chinese-style government in the U.S.? No, and that is why I just said you don't know what socialism is, which is why you're going to immediately accuse me of being a communist. You did exactly that. You don't know what socialism, communism, or capitalism is. I challenge you to define any of those three without looking them up.
Is obviously you are at the mercy of whoever you're working for, and that person can exploit you. And so that's also something that doesn't get discussed enough, unfortunately. And so the very people that are defending these illegal immigrants are often hurting them by not talking about some of these issues that impact them in a way that's not to their benefit. And I think the president right now is obviously focused, understandably, on the tax
China
bill.
does have really fucking cool trains. I will always give the Chinese that. They've got incredible fucking trains.
I think that's his number one priority, as well it should be, because that's going to propel the economy of the country. But after that, I could totally see the president pivoting to find a way to solve the immigration reform issue and create something that's good for the country, that's good for our national security.
Socialism will take big business. Hey, real quick, David Holden, do you think the billionaires in this country give a fuck about you? Do you think the billionaires give a fuck about you? Genuinely. Do you think that? No? Okay, so do you support increasing the taxes of the billionaires and using that money to create programs that will make our society better? Thank you for the $10 donation, Carl. Would you support that, David? That sounds good. That's socialism. That's socialism. Hey, let me ask you a question, David. Do you support the working class being able to vote on what the minimum wage should be? Because I don't know if you know this, but the minimum wage has not increased since 2009. Do you think the working class should be allowed to vote on what the minimum wage should be? I guess so. That's socialism. He says, I guess so, but I ain't no socialist. Really? Because you do support a lot of socialist policies. Hey, David, when you turn 65, should you be allowed to get that check from Social Security that you've been paying into every single year? When you retire, should you be allowed to get that money that you've been paying this entire time? Do you want your Social Security check? Oh, so you do like socialism. Okay. David, would you like your tax dollars to go into creating programs that actually help society instead of arming Israel? David, would you like your tax dollars to go into programs that benefit society rather than arming Israel? That's socialism. Hey, David, do you like having a weekend? Hey, David, do you like the 5-day work week instead of the 7-day work week? You like the idea of a weekend, right? David, do you like the idea of a weekend? That's socialism. David, do you like the idea of a 8-hour workday instead of a 16-hour workday? David, do you like that? That's socialism. And last but not least, David, do you support unions being able to go on strike and demand better treatment? Do you support unions going on strike to demand better treatment from their employers? Nah, that hurts business. So you don't support workers' rights. You don't like unions? You don't support workers' rights, and you don't like unions. No, I do. No, you can't have it both ways. You have to make a decision. Do you like unions and workers' rights? Yes or no? Do you support those workers and unions going on strike to demand better treatment? Yes or no? Now, yes. Okay. David, breaking news. Whether you accept it or not, you're a socialist. I know you're too afraid to admit it because it's big and scary and you're surrounded by people who would accuse you of being a communist. But based on every question I just asked you, your opinion no longer matters. You are a socialist. You can deny it. You can hide and say, oh, no, I'm not. You're literally a socialist. You're literally a socialist. All of those questions I asked you and your answers, you're actually a socialist. I know you're not going to admit it, but you might not even know it. You are literally a socialist. I ain't a Russian. David, are you serious right now? David, are you serious right now? Is that actually the answer? Is that genuinely your response? Jesus Christ, you're so stupid. Holy fuck. Holy fuck.
Mr. President, I rise today to reiterate my objection to
socialism has turned into dictatorships. Name one socialist nation that turned into a dictatorship, and please tell me what their socialist policy. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to say Joseph Stalin, not a socialist nation. You're going to say Mao Zedong, not a socialist nation. You're going to say Pol Pot, not a socialist nation. You're going to say Adolf Hitler, not a socialist. So please tell me what socialist nation turned into a dictatorship.
EPA nominations and Republicans' unprecedented attacks, not only on California's climate leadership, but on the rules and procedures of this body. But before I do that, I need to first address what's unfolded in my hometown of Los Angeles over the last several days.
That one in Africa?
Now, in my
can't remember. Okay, so you literally
like,
cannot name one single socialist nation that turned into a dictatorship. Meanwhile, you're claiming socialism will turn into a dictatorship. Do you understand how stupid you sound?
Most embarrassing weeks, to be sure, of the Trump presidency, as the public has continued to learn the truth about the budget reconciliation bill that would cut health care for so many working families across the country in order to pay for further tax breaks for the most wealthy in America. I'm sure he didn't appreciate us shining the light on that, as we continue to see the impact of his failed tariff wars and the increasing costs on those same working families. And of course, the attention that his breakup with Elon Musk got. It was not a good week for the president. And so just as he done...
The USSR was not a socialist nation. The USSR was a Stalinist nation. They never practiced socialism. There was no reallocation of wealth. There was no redistribution of wealth. There was no democratization of the working class. That is complete fucking copium. If you believe that the Russians were a communist or socialist nation, then I have a fucking prince in Nigeria who wants you to give him your social security number so he can send you $10 million. Vietnam right now, not socialist. Vietnam is one of the most hyper-capitalist nations on planet Earth. They actually have an incredibly tight-knit relationship with the United States of America. Try again.
So many times before.
Vietnam and Cuba are not socialist nations.
When all else fails, what does he do? Classic Trump playbook. He turns to scapegoating immigrants. And he decided that this was the time to launch indiscriminate ICE raids throughout the Los Angeles region, clearly not just targeting criminals, but so many others. ICE raids in workplaces in an attempt to manufacture
crash course video on socialism. Let me see. Norway and Canada. Norway is doing better than the United States of America. They are one of the only examples of a functioning social democracy. Canada is not socialist.
The idea of socialism has become very popular.
Failed in all countries where attempted.
Every time a country started down the socialist path, it
because
failed.
Marxism doesn't work as a positive thing, as a way of running an economy. Marxism ruins everything.
Before we get into this, when I started this video, it was supposed to be about highlighting successful socialist experiments, which it still is. But as I kept researching and reading, a common theme popped up. Whenever a socialist state started to see success, it was immediately met with Western-backed sanctions or coups d'etats. Now, this is something
Just so you know, David, and everybody in chat, almost every single nation that has ever attempted to become socialist has had the United States of America send in the military or the CIA. Every single nation.
I already knew, but
The reason why, quote, socialism has never worked is because America refuses to allow it to. If any nation proves that socialism can work, everyone in America living under the hyper-capitalist machine will suddenly realize, oh my God, we are slaves.
Didn't fully contend with this fact until I was 2 days into editing this video. That's when I realized I was asking the wrong question. I should have been asking, does socialism always fail? And if it does, is it due to an integral flaw with the concept? Or is it due to constant stifling from the imperial core? I'll leave that up to you. Here is the video. A common response by the left to the claim that every socialist experiment failed is to claim that those failed socialist states weren't truly socialist. This is a claim I don't necessarily disagree with, by the way. I do believe that many old communist states devolved into tyranny and state capitalism due to the fact that the old oppressive dynamic between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat wasn't appropriately challenged or dismantled. Instead, the state just mirrored that same dynamic, resulting in the people's
This is not socialism. This is a dictatorship.
Subordination to the state instead of their subordination to the capitalist class. This is a contested topic, but we don't even need to argue on these grounds. For the sake of this video, I will not invoke the "it was state capitalist" argument. Another common approach to the claim that every socialist state was a failure is to hype up the accomplishments of past totalitarian regimes, like the Soviet Union. Now, I'm very critical of the USSR and their egregious human rights violations, but we should be able to highlight and, more importantly, learn from what they did manage to accomplish and do so without playing defense for them. And that leads me to how, in this video, I will delineate between what I consider to be successful and unsuccessful socialist experiments. The three major criteria I will use to determine if a socialist experiment was a success are: 1. It improved the quality of life for the most amount of people. 2. It replaced a regime that was significantly worse. And 3. It did so without resulting in any sort of human rights catastrophe. A few things I want to really quickly touch on before we get into the thick of this video. Oftentimes, when a socialist country experiences economic or political hardship, there are anti-communists ready to gleefully bask in its suffering so that they could place the blame on socialism. I shouldn't have to point out how obviously inhumane this is. I would not point to the crippled economy of Argentina at the hands of anarcho-capitalist Javier Milei and gloat about how superior my ideology is. There's a lot of real people bearing the brunt of his stupidity. But aside from the obvious douchebaggery, oftentimes when socialist countries experience turmoil, it isn't even due to socialism. Venezuela is a great example. No,
Yep, CIA coup d'etat is the reason why Venezuela is suffering. The United States of America had a failed military coup d'etat in Venezuela.
Socialism did not destroy Venezuela. Dutch disease, along with other things, did. Venezuela hitched its bets to its oil industry and failed to diversify its exports or properly nurture other economic sectors. Venezuela also suffered sanctions, corruption, and other economic devastation that had nothing to do with socialism. Successful socialist experiment number 1. Burkina Faso at the hands of Thomas Sankara. Sankara is a personal hero.
It's the one you brought up, bro. It's a successful socialist nation.
Mine, I could go on for hours about him, but for the sake of brevity, I won't fangirl this time. Sankara was born in 1949 in what is now known as Burkina Faso, but at the time it was a French colony called Upper Volta. Upper Volta was one of the poorest countries in West Africa.
North Korea is not a socialist nation, it's a dictatorship. David, are you paying attention to fucking anything? Are you paying attention to fucking anything?
Largely an agrarian society with low rates of productivity. It lacked significantly when it came to infrastructure. It had high levels of unemployment, low literacy rates, gender discrimination, and poor healthcare. To top it off, droughts and other environmental issues were prevalent, and due to underdeveloped infrastructure, they negatively impacted crop yields, which led to more poverty. Sankara, an anti-colonialist Marxist-Leninist, overthrew the existing regime in 1983, and one of his first decisions was to rename Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, meaning land of upright men. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What a sexist douche. Women lived there too, Thomas. But he was actually based as hell when it came to gender discrimination. This little pamphlet is a copy of his 1987 Women's Day speech, where the central thesis is that the revolution could not prosper without the emancipation of women. He also prohibited both female genital mutilation and forced marriage.
Anybody can become a member if you fucking pay me. Oh, wow, a Marxist-Leninist and you support him, Chris? Yes. Yes. Yes.
In addition to this, he built schools, water reservoirs, medical centers, raised the literacy rate, planted 10 million trees to combat desertification, vaccinated millions against meningitis, measles, and yellow fever, and for those who think socialism is an economically unsound theory, Sankara improved the economy and agriculture so drastically that within only 4 years, UN analysts declared the country food self-sufficient. Unfortunately, this story does not have a happy ending. Sankara was killed in a coup in 1980.
Marx is against the Christian religion? No, he wasn't. And also, all religion is bad, okay? I am against all religion. I don't hate any religion specifically, but all religion is bad for humanity. It has brought about the more bloodshed than any other invention of mankind.
And Burkina Faso regressed without him. Successful socialist experiment number 2, Jacobo Arbenza's Guatemala. In the 50s, an American business called the United Fruit Company had disproportionate control over the Guatemalan economy. They owned about 500,000 acres of land, ports, railroads, and more. This purchasing and appropriating of Guatemalan land...
What about all the Catholic hospitals, Chris? Who gives a fuck if it's Catholic? It's a hospital. Does it being a hospital have something to do with Jesus Christ? Are you fucking stupid?
And forced the peasantry of
How about the Crusades?
Guatemala into a terrible quality of life. Through ostracizing the people of Guatemala from their own resource-rich lands and exploiting said lands for the financial gain of American big business, the United Fruit Company played its role in exacerbating wealth inequality in the country. Unfortunately, this is a story that is not all too uncommon in the global south, yet in the imperial core, we always
Catholic
find
Church
a way
made
to
those hospitals
demonize
for people. The Catholic Church also smuggled thousands of Nazis out of Nazi Germany. The Catholic Church is also responsible for child rape in mass across the planet. The Catholic Church is also responsible for the fucking Crusades. What are we doing right now? Oh, they built a couple hospitals.
the people who choose to do something about the situation we've imposed upon them. Jacobo Arbenz is one of those people. Democratically elected Arbenz knew that he had to do something about the way that American big business was destroying the country, so he purchased, yes, purchased,
oh, also,
the
real
land
quick,
back.
Did you know that the Nazis had hospitals? That must mean that the Nazis weren't that bad. I mean, they created hospitals. So the Nazis, they couldn't possibly be bad, right? They made hospitals.
And redistributed it to the people of Guatemala. By 1954, a sixth of the population had received land due to Arbenz's reform law, formerly known as Decree 900. This legendary agrarian reform program not only resulted in higher living conditions for many farmers and their families, but it stuck up to big corporate imperialist bullies, told them that Latin America is not their playpen, and proved to be influential across the continent. The Americans subsequently funded, launched, and orchestrated the coup that exiled Arbenz. This CIA operation was called PB Success if you want to read more about it. But there was a certain individual who was living in Guatemala at the time, and he happened to witness all of this and take inspiration from Arbenz and his policies, and that individual was Che Guevara. Successful socialist experiment number 3, Salvador Allende's Chile. Now this case is one that I think is very nuanced, but I firmly believe that Allende's Chile, when all was said and done, was a successful implementation of socialist policies, and I'll explain why. Salvador Allende was a democratically elected socialist who nationalized mines, telephone lines, and more in Chile. His socialist policies raised the quality of life for many Chileans, helped the country fight back against inflation that was ravaging not only the country, but most of the continent. He lowered unemployment, and he helped create the Chilean National Health Service, which was the first program in the Americas to guarantee universal health care. All of these achievements occurred within the first year of his presidency.
Yes, Jesus Christ was a socialist.
Proved how quickly good policy could turn a country around. Now, if you can sense a but coming in my delivery, you would be right. Allende's socialist policies were working well
I'm Christian and proud. All I see is hate. Form the socialist. That's why I find the good old America's party better. Jesus Christ was literally a socialist. Jesus Christ was a socialist.
Second year of his term. American intervention in Chile became so aggressive and overbearing that it's hard to believe any country, socialist or not, would be able to hold its own. The American government and American economists, namely Milton Friedman, did whatever they could to meddle with the Chilean economy. Friedman was a notorious economist who promoted economic theories of mass privatization, defunding social programs, and overall hypercapitalism. He was one of the faces of neoliberal economics at the time. The Americans launched the Chile Project in the 50s with the goal of turning Chile into a massive neoliberal experiment. Many Chileans, now known as the Chicago Boys, were brought to Chicago to study under Milton Friedman. When those Chicago boys returned home, and when Allende, who threatened to nationalize U.S. copper mines, became president, both the U.S. government and the indoctrinated Chicago boys fueled domestic flames, leading to lockouts, strikes, and boycotts. These lockouts were promoted heavily by the Nixon administration with the goal to halt the Chilean economy. Local business owners, truckers, and other Chileans, in an attempt to spite Allende, would withhold their product.
America will do absolutely everything in its power to make sure that a socialist nation never fucking succeeds.
Or mark them up unnecessarily to artificially demean the economy. In addition to this, copper, which was Chile's biggest export, was not only suffering a drop in price, but there was a reluctance to purchase Chilean copper.
Don't outright bash Christians if you want them to join you. Dude, I bash every fucking religion. Any religious zealot is going to get bashed. And I don't fucking care if you don't support me because you're a Christian, dude. There are Christians who do support me, motherfucker. I was raised Christian. I made my way out of that cult, and it took a lot of fucking work.
America's disapproval of the country. Things like this always make me wonder if socialism is such a bad idea from the get-go and it's doomed to fail. Then why does the West constantly feel the need to intervene and spend billions of dollars or kill millions of people to make sure that it fails? I thought I thought it was doomed from the jump. Why would Nixon need to give the direct order, and I quote, "make the economy scream," when referring to what he wanted to see done about Allende's Chile? I thought this shit was supposed to crumble on its own. Long story short, September 11th, 1973, Allende was killed in a coup and replaced by a military junta, which then devolved
Islam
into
then?
the right.
Yeah, sure. Islam is also a terrible religion. All religions are equally fucking terrible. They bring about more bloodshed than anything else we fucking ever created. The Crusades were a fight between the Christians and Islam, and they all fucking killed each other over a storybook about a fucking god that they couldn't even see. Yeah, same thing with Judaism. Same thing with fucking Hindus. All religions are bad. They are divisive. They separate people and put them into boxes. Yeah, dumb fuck.
Right-wing dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. Now, you would think that since the pesky socialist was out of the equation, the economy would boom under Pinochet, especially since one of his economic advisors was the great Milton Friedman, one of the thought leaders behind neoliberal capitalism. But no. The opposite happened, actually. I'm going to read you a few lines from one of my favorite books, The Shock Doctrine, by Naomi Klein. In 1982, despite its strict adherence to Chicago Doctrine, Chile's economy crashed. Its debt exploded, it faced hyperinflation once again, and unemployment hit 30%, 10 times higher than it was under Allende. The only thing that protected Chile from a complete economic collapse in the early 80s was that Pinochet had never
Even
privatized
Buddhism,
Codelco,
Ronaldo.
the state copper mine company.
All religions were created by man as a way to fucking divide us. So when Muslims take your land, enslave women, you do absolutely nothing? Oh my God, this guy's just Islamophobic. David, so you're just Islamophobic. You think that all Muslims want to enslave your women? David, is that what you think? All Muslims want to enslave your women and take your land. Is that what you think? Get ready to hit this fucker with the ban hammer. I'm talking about the Crusades? No, answer my fucking question, David. Do you think all Muslims want to steal your land and rape your women? Yes or no? Not all Muslims know? Then why the fuck did you just say that? Then why the fuck are you implying that all Muslims are going to steal your land and rape your women? Why are you implying that? Chill, bro? I'm not gonna fucking chill. I'm talking to some Islamophobe. Said it was a Crusades historical, that's what... Dude, the Catholics fucking murdered millions of Islamic people. Do you have anything to say about the Catholic Church murdering millions of Islamic people? Anything whatsoever, and raping along the way? Do you have anything to say about that? And stealing their fucking land. Sure, that was bad too, 100%. So, you're admitting that the Catholic Church has committed mass murder and rape. But meanwhile, you're defending it? What the fuck? Hey, how about during the Crusades when they murdered an entire fucking village and one of the generals said, "Sir, there are Christians in there," and his response was, "Kill them all, let God sort them out." Is that good? Is that good? That's a great religion, right? That's a great religion, right? No, that's bad, bro. That's Catholicism.
Nationalized by Allende. That one company generated 85% of Chile's export revenues, which meant that when the financial bubble burst, the state still had a steady source of funds. So not only were Allende's policies preferable to Friedman's and Pinochet's, but Allende was literally saving the economy from beyond the grave. I'll leave you with a quote from a super normal and definitely not evil dude named Henry Kissinger. "We didn't do it. I mean, we helped them. we created the conditions as great as possible. One argument I often hear from anti-socialists is, well, if ex-socialist country can be destroyed by sanctions, embargoes, and Western intervention, then socialism is to blame because—
You said not to generalize all Muslims, but you generalize all Catholics in the Catholic Church, bro. What? Are you dead ass right now? Are you dead ass right now? Are you serious?
they created a weak and susceptible country. This line of logic is idiotic. The West has sanctioned non-socialist countries in the past, and they have also suffered similar economic troubles. But to make an ethical argument here, I don't think it's right to blame a sovereign, developing socialist, or neoliberal country for that matter, for being stifled by the largest global superpower and its embargoes, sanctions, or coups d'etats. In stark contrast to all of these aforementioned examples of what I consider to be successful socialist experiments, I can list a great many failed capitalist societies. One could make the argument that America, being the richest country in the world where one of the primary causes of premature death is treatable illness, is not only a pragmatic and logistic failing, but a moral abomination. That's all from me. If you liked the video, let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and if you hated it.
That was a great video. Who is this guy? Overzealots. Go check him out. You just said that's Catholicism when talking about the Crusades. That's generalizing the Catholic Church has moved on. Stop giving a double standard. I'm telling you that the Catholic Church was responsible for the very things that you were accusing the entire religion of Islam over. The entire religion. That's what I'm pointing out. The pure fucking hypocrisy of you Christians who go, well, the Muslims are burning down the world and raping our women. So are the fucking Catholics. Religion is the problem, not which religion. It's you stupid fucks who say, well, God says it's okay, and then do anything you fucking want. It's unfucking believable. This is like arguing with a fourth grader. Yeah, no, but then again, Islam evil. They're brown. Whoops, I forgot. Whoops.
Hey, Joe, get out of there. Get out of that gas area. We're fine over here. Don't get decontaminated on Route 14. Hang on. Get up. Mike, withdraw. Withdraw. You got me? Hey, I'm going to hold on to you.
Bro, I'm just stretching my legs.
Relax, dude.
What am I doing?
Relax.
There's evidence that I was like being compliant with the law. They asked me to move to the sidewalk. I did. And I'm like under arrest.
This is in Texas, by the way.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Can we have a word?
Could you tell us?
On international waters, we were illegally attacked and kidnapped by Israel and taken against our will to Israel, where we were detained. And then some of us deported, some are still there. There are very big uncertainties because it was quite chaotic and uncertain, so I don't really know what's going on. I haven't had a phone for many days, and
What were the conditions for you over the last few hours?
They were absolutely nothing compared to what people are going through in Palestine, especially Gaza right now. And this is yet another international a violation of international rights, adding to the list of countless of such, especially towards Palestinians, that Israel are committing by blocking and preventing humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. That is illegal.
Why is Greta going to a war zone? They brought food. They were trying to bring food to the starving people of Gaza because the Israelis are weaponizing their hunger and starving out the population. They're trying to bring food. It is a war zone, Master Payne. It is a war zone.
Mr. Secretary, I plan to ask you some budget questions about the following: the cost of the Qatar plane, where the money from the Army's parade is coming from, or the National Guard deployments to the border, where that funding is coming from. I honor and celebrate the United States Army, but I'd like to know how much this parade is going to cost. I have sent the department letters.
Isn't that a war crime as well? Yes, but Israel commits war crimes every day.
Occasions on this, and I'm still waiting for a response. But then something else happened this
Labeling
weekend,
it as a war zone implies that Gaza is trying to fight back. They are. They are.
To be addressed, and that is the president's premature and escalatory decision to deploy not only the National Guard.
The left is mean, bro. No, the left cares about humanity, and you have forsaken your humanity, which means you will be left behind while the real adults build civilization. We're not mean. We're tired of your shit.
Angeles, but active duty Marines as well. Mr. Secretary, we're both from Minnesota. I was in the Twin Cities during the riots that followed the murder of George Floyd. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the
Chris,
streets.
I'm a Muslim. I don't hate anyone for their belief, skin color, or gender. Oh, yeah? Well, what's his name? David believes that you want to steal our land and rape our women simply because you praise Allah.
Governor Walz made the decision to call up the Minnesota National Guard. At no point did we need the citizens of Minnesota request that the Marines be deployed. Our state and local law enforcement, along with our National Guard, who have worked on crowd control, they were more than enough.
Fake news?
All
right, ban David. Fuck you, David. I hope you get blood cancer and die slowly. Your mother's a whore. Your father's a coward. Your grandmother was a trailer park tramp I could fuck for 5 cents. Fuck you, uneducated swine.
Capable of handling this situation. History has proven that law enforcement and the National Guard are more than capable of handling situations more volatile than what happened this weekend. We all see the continuous loops on TV, but this looks nothing like the George Floyd protests or the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles in 1992. Mr. Secretary, this is a deeply unfair position to put our Marines in. Their service should be honored. It should not be exploited. The president has issued an executive order and talked about deploying.
He's already gone, Jack. Don't worry about it.
Los Angeles County has
bit over the top, mate, don't you think? Nope, not when I'm arguing with fucking theocratic fascists. Nothing is too far when you're arguing with theocratic fascists.
And law enforcement personnel, and the state of California has 24,000 National Guard troops. So that's why the Los Angeles Chief Police to say, and I quote, "The possible arrival of federal military forces in Los Angeles is an absent a clear coordination, presents a significant logistical operational challenge for those of us who are charged with safeguarding the city." The end of his quote. As I mentioned before, in Minnesota, we train for those things together.
Banned for being a Trump supporter? No, banned for being a theocratic fascist. Huge fucking difference.
Marines to be deployed. So here are my budget questions, though. What is the current cost for what is taking place in California, and how is it going to affect this budget or the budget we're currently serving under? How much are these deployments going to cost for both the Marines and the National Guard? And what training or duties are not taking place because of these deployments?
What do we do with them when this is all over? Where do all the right-wing a-holes go? Back under the fucking rocks where they were before Donald Trump emboldened them all. We leave them behind. You leave them behind.
Sir, are you going to find, in the remainder of this fiscal year, are you going to pull the money to cover these deployments? What holes are being created?
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for the question. You are right. We are both originally
nice
from
lie,
Minnesota,
Tyler.
which is why I
just the
recall
most
2020.
bold-faced fucking lie I've ever heard in my chat.
Well, when Governor Walz abandoned a police precinct and allowed it to be burned to the ground, and also allowed 5 days of chaos to occur inside the streets of Minneapolis. The police precinct, ma'am, was abandoned and burned to the ground.
That's not true.
Because of that, the National Guard was eventually far too late mobilized.
That's not
And
true
President Trump
whatsoever. The police
recognizes a
precinct was
situation
not burned to the ground. I'm not lying. What do you mean, bro? I have proof. No, you don't.
Like that, improperly handled by a governor, like it was by Governor Walz, if it gets out of control, is a bad situation for the citizens of any location. So in Los Angeles, we believe that ICE, which is a federal law enforcement agency, has the right to safely conduct operations in any state and any jurisdiction in the country, especially after 21 million illegals have crossed our border under the previous administration. ICE ought to be able to do its job, whether it's Minneapolis or Los
I have
Angeles.
limited time. I asked a budget
And they are
question.
being-
Could the Secretary please address the budget? Thank you.
You asked about the situation in Los Angeles, and we believe
Asked about
ICE
the budget.
agents should be allowed to be
asked about the
safe in
budget,
doing
sir.
their operations, and we have deployed National Guard and the Marines to protect them in the execution of their duties, because we ought to be able to enforce immigration law in this country, unlike what Governor Walz did in 2020. There are 17,000 LAPD, you mentioned that. There would be 18,000 if not for the defund movement that folks like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have implemented.
If
The police
if
chief
Mr.
said she was
Chairman, if
overwhelmed,
the Secretary's not
so we
going
helped.
to ask the budgetary questions, I will yield back my time if the Secretary refuses to answer the budgetary questions I put before him. They're important. What training missions aren't happening? Where are you pulling the money from? And how are you planning this in the moving forward? These are budget questions that affect this committee and the decisions we're going to be making in a couple of hours. If you're not going to answer them, please let the chairman know, and I will take back my time and I will yield it back to the
Mr.
chairman.
Secretary, why don't you just let us know what accounts you're pulling the money to fund?
Tyler says, guys, I was joking. Yeah, Tyler, here's what you don't understand, is that there are so many people in this nation who do not think you're joking. They will see that and they will use that to argue for fascism and say, hey, I know a guy who's a Somali Icelandic native who voted for Kamala Harris. He admitted it himself. You don't understand how important the things that you say are. People will ride with that shit.
Administration, we've got a 13% increase in our defense budget, and we will have the capability to cover down on contingencies, which is something the National Guard and the Marine plan for. So we have the funding to cover down on contingencies, especially ones as important as maintaining law and order in a major American city. As far as training, all of the units on the ground have been fully trained in their capabilities of what they're executing on the ground.
For budgetary, if he needs to get back to the committee with the numbers, I'd appreciate it, both current and present.
Happy to submit them for the record.
No, I do not listen to metal.
We'll receive an answer to the question.
I want to see if Trump has posted anything. Yeah, we already covered that. He hasn't said diddly shit so far. Do you guys not know that Tommy Tough Knuckles is a real guy? He's a kid.
Tommy Tough Knuckles was just arrested. Tommy originally went viral for pouring eggs on his head and appraising cars. But now Tommy is facing 8 different criminal charges due to his videos, and he might be going to jail. Do you think Tommy Tough Knuckles was wrongfully arrested? Tommy Tough Knuckles was
Dude,
just
I
arrested.
can't believe the way that guy's fucking talking.
In an area of social media, when people push pranks to the craziest limits, all to increase their clicks and likes, stuff can get out of control pretty
Luigi!
fast. Kyle Vasquez has gained a following, performing some pretty odd pranks, like dumping food over his head in public. But it's some stunts that took place behind closed doors that have now landed him on the radar of the Suffolk County Police. Here's Stacy Sager.
Kyle, you wanted attention, now you got it. Kyle Vasquez is used to chasing likes on TikTok, but not much to like about this obscene gesture at court today.
What? We're not doing that.
What a
Then
fucking
he tried
legend.
to barge out a side door in conflict with the officers that were here to escort him out. The 21-year-old from Coram, known as Tommy Tough Knuckles on TikTok, facing 8 separate criminal counts today for viral videos.
Oh my god, Tommy Tough Knuckles, are you out of your fucking mind, Tommy? Let's see, I bet you TikTok shows me some fucked up shit off the rip. No. Tommy Tough Knuckles.
My friend had an emergency in the bathroom. He's like stuck in the stall and I can't get under because I hurt my back. He's stuck.
Bro, that's the stupidest shit I've ever seen.
Really need your help. It's a little bit of an emergency. My friend is stuck in the bathroom and I can't get him out of the stall. Yeah, I don't know. Please.
What the hell are you doing, son?
Bro, that's so fucking stupid. That's so fucking... Wait 1 second, guys. Hi, Beans. I'm trying to pull something up real quick, and I can't share my screen just yet. Boom, boom, ba-do-do-dum, boom, bum, ba-dum, boom, boom, ba-do-do-do. Luigi, shush. Chris is hot. No, I'm on my, I'm on Xbox.com here, and I'm trying to find a way to pull up my gaming clips, and I don't know if you even can on the computer. You might not be able to. Xbox app you can? Yeah, but I don't have the app. I don't have the fucking app. Oh, I gotta download it? Ah, fuck. Alright, well, I'm not downloading it. I have it on my phone. I'm gonna send it to myself because I want to show you. Save. Downloading. Now it's downloading. All hail Lord Nelson, swinger of the banhammer. Will Europe help us? Fuck no. Are you kidding? All right, that's saved. Now I'm going to send it to my email. Because I really want to show you guys this fucking clip so badly. Think about the new Superman movie? Oh, I can't fucking wait to see it. Can't wait. See, Germany's buffing up their military? I did see that. Pretty sure FDR or Eisenhower was like, never, on his deathbed, was like, never let Germany build up their military. Never. Waluigi. Luigi, do I rush? All right, let's see. I should probably have that video now. Yeah, I got an email from some guy in the Netherlands. Hello, Chris. This is from Ed van Riskevik. Hello, Chris. I'm following your YouTube show. I am a 67-year-old man from the Netherlands, and I like you. I consider myself to be a socialist. I'm following what's happening in the United States closely for a couple of years now, because I have family living in the United States. What's going on in LA now fills me with extra fear, not because of the riots or the protests, but because of what the fascists of the Trump administration will do. Keep up the good work. Greetings, Ed van Riskevik, Tilburg, the Netherlands. Thank you very much. If you're seeing this, thanks, bro. Why hasn't that video sent? That video won't fucking send. Piece of shit. Why does this always fucking happen? I always have goddamn tech issues. It's never something simple. Always a fucking problem. It can take up to 3 minutes? What, to send a video? Dead ass? Up to 3 minutes to send a fucking video? It's 20 megabytes. Fucking 20 megabytes, bro. it's so fucking stupid. It's email, Chris. Welcome to the real world. I fucking hate the real world. Oh, I'll do that. I'll stroke the shaft of freedom and I'll cradle the balls of democracy. Easy peasy lemon fucking squeezy. I'll fucking spit on it. That fucking video has still not been sent. I don't have condensation running right now. Oh, wait. Is Trump speaking? I think Trump is speaking live.
I'm not playing around.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Well, you'll take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. The night before that was terrible. If it was perfect, but it should not be ever like what we've seen. We're sending billions of dollars to California all the time, God, from environmental restrictions. It up. Lee Zeldin's done an timber anywhere in the world and we don't use it. We freed it up. Lee Zeldin's done an
Who would you like to see end up in the presidency? Me. Me.
In that regard, from environmental restrictions that are ridiculous. And a lot of it's been freed up. The rest of it's being freed up. Some of it's been freed up. The rest of it's being freed up. Some areas will continue to protect, but we're going to be freeing up most of it.
Hold on, let me close out some of these tabs.
And again, we have some of the best in the world. And when I hear you say that we lost more in fires than we produce, is so crazy. Because we shouldn't lose very much at all. I could say we shouldn't lose any if it was
Give this a second to buffer, too.
perfect. But it should not be ever like what we've seen. We're sending billions of dollars to California all the time because obviously in California they are not doing a good job in any way, shape, or form. Any other thing either. So with that, I'm heading to Fort Bragg right now. I think the helicopter's landing as we speak. But if you want, we'll take a few questions.
Mr. President, will you invoke the Insurrection Act to deal with the situation in California?
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see. But I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up and handing these big chunks of concrete to people. And they were taking that concrete, going up on bridges and dropping it into the roof of a car. They were throwing it at our police. They were throwing it at our soldiers that are there. And we got it stopped, and we have them in custody right now. Look, if we didn't get involved, right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. We're not playing around.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Well, you'll take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money. And when you take a look at what they do, where they show up and everyone's saying, what's he doing? He's pounding the curbs. This one guy's pounding the curb, breaking the curb, and handing big pieces of granite. In some cases, it's granite and concrete to other people. And they're running out with it. And then we watch the other people, and they try and throw it into the face of the soldiers, throw it into the face of the police, and they hurt some people very badly. They go up on bridges, they drop it down on the cars as the cars are moving. They're not breaking the curb because they're doing a demolition service. They're breaking it to hand out to people as a weapon. It's bad stuff. I've never seen that before.
Mr. President, how soon do you want to see FEMA eliminated? And what's your message to the governors about how much more an expense is going to fall to states?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be so much the states. We're going to give out less money. We're going to give it out directly. It'll be from the president's office. We'll have somebody here. Could be Homeland Security, but we're going to give it out through a method where it's given out. As an example, I just gave out $71 million to a certain state. They were looking to do about 120. They were very happy with the 71 million. We did a little cutting.
Hold on, let me
in custody right now. Look, it's an insurrection. I would certainly not be ever like what we've seen. We're sending billions of dollars to California all the time because obviously in California they are not doing a good job in any way, shape, or form. Any other thing either. So with that, I'm heading to Fort Bragg right now. I think the helicopter's landing as we speak. But if you want, we'll take a few questions.
Okay. That needs to buffer for a second because I'm losing frames, and we're going to make a video. Okay. Donald Trump is preparing to completely overthrow the Posse Comitatus Act and deploy the United States military to all 50 states in the United States of America, declaring nationwide martial law. Hi, I'm Chris Valenti. Welcome to the Valenti VOD. I'm your perfect and humble leader. Donald Trump, 3 minutes ago, just answered some questions in the Oval Office regarding whether or not he is going to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807 and allow the 700 Marines and, 4,000 National Guards that he has deployed in Los Angeles. If he does this, it will allow those men to start detaining and arresting people. As of right now, the 700 Marines and the 4,000 National Guard that he sent to Los Angeles, all they can do is shoot people with live rounds. They can kill people. And we're going to go over a lot of what this means, how this is legal, and how the United States is crumbling and democracy is dying under the whims of a fascist orange man. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It costs you nothing and it helps me immensely. We are living through completely unprecedented times. Just so you understand, the last time that a United States president sent the National Guard to a state or federalized the National Guard without the permission of a governor was in 1965 when Lyndon B. Johnson sent in the United States Marines to combat the Alabama National Guard, who refused to protect the black people who were being attacked by the Ku Klux Klan in Selma. So you are living through completely unprecedented times. We're going to go through a little bit of this, and if you want to support me financially, you can become a member, you can become a patron, you could buy merch, or you could use the 40% off discount code on Vantage subscription for ground news. But I think that we should just dive into this. I'm going to turn off the chat for this because this is quite important, and I'm going to turn off the alert box. Okay. So, first thing you have to understand is what is the Posse Comitatus Act, okay? The Posse Comitatus Act is a United States federal law originally signed on June 18, 1878 by President Rutherford B. Hayes. Now, this act, it limits the powers of the federal government in the use of federal military personnel to enforce domestic policies within the United States. So what this means is that the federal military can be deployed by the President of the United States. However, they cannot enforce domestic policies. Now, the ways that you enforce domestic policies is through law enforcement. It's detaining people, it's arresting people, it's questioning people, it's throwing them in prison, right? All of that is the job of law enforcement, okay? And the reason why the Marines and the National Guard, the reason why martial law hasn't been deployed is because of the Posse Comitatus Act. You understand? Well, Donald Trump is considering deploying or invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807. Now, the Insurrection Act is a U.S. federal law that empowers the President of the United States to nationally deploy the U.S. military and to federalize the National Guard units of the individual states in specific circumstances, such as the suppression of civil disorder, of insurrection, and of armed rebellion against the federal government. Here's the juice. The Insurrection Act provides a statutory exemption to the Posse Comitatus Act that limits the president's deployment of the U.S. military to enforce either civil law or criminal law within the United States. Now, this is important because crossing the border illegally is not a crime. It's not a criminal matter. It is a civil matter, okay? So this means that the United States military can enforce civil law. This is a complete overpowering of the Posse Comitatus Act, okay? Now, we are going to listen to this from the horse's mouth. And when I say horse, yes, I mean Donald Trump. Here we go. Come on, go full screen already, you fucking piece of shit. Thank you.
Mr. President, will you invoke the Insurrection Act to deal with the situation in California?
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. Well,
if there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. Now let's pull up Donald Trump truth. He says, if there's an insurrection, then I will certainly invoke it. Hi, Beans. He says, if there's an insurrection, I will certainly invoke it. Meanwhile, he already called it an insurrection. God, this motherfucker posts so much. He posts so much, and this is a president. Let's see. I know he did. Here, look, here they are. Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass should apologize to the people of Los Angeles for the absolutely horrible job that they have done. And this now includes the ongoing LA riots. These are not protesters. They are troublemakers and insurrectionists. Okay, so this means by definition that Donald Trump is going to invoke the Insurrection Act. So let's play again what he just said.
Insurrection Act to deal with the situation in California.
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see, but I can tell you last night was terrible.
He said if there's an insurrection. Okay, well, you already called them insurrectionists, so that means you're going to invoke the Insurrection Act.
The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up, and handing these big chunks of concrete to people. And they were taking that concrete, going up on bridges and dropping it into the roof of a car. They were throwing it at our police. They were throwing it at our soldiers that are there. And we got it stopped, and we have them in custody right now. Look, if we didn't get involved, right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. We're not playing around.
How will you determine whether or not there is an insurrection?
Well, you'll take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money.
So he just said it again. These are insurrectionists. So he believes it's an insurrection. That's what he's saying.
And when you take a look at what they do, where they show up and everyone's saying, what's he doing? He's pounding the curbs. This one guy's pounding the curb, breaking the curb, and handing big pieces of granite. In some cases, it's granite and concrete to other people. And they're running out with it. And then we watch the other people, and they try and throw it into the face of the soldiers, throw it into the face of the police, and they hurt some people very badly. They go up on bridges, they drop it down on the cars as the cars are moving. They're not breaking the curb because they're doing a demolition service. They're breaking it to hand out to people as a weapon. It's bad stuff. I've never seen that before.
Mr. President, how soon do you want to see FEMA eliminated? And what's your message to the governors about?
So yeah, you just heard it from the horse's mouth. And then this next part here, they're asking him, when do you want to eliminate FEMA? So to all of you in like North Carolina who were affected by the hurricanes, to anybody living through tornadoes, Trump wants to abolish FEMA. You're fucked, and he doesn't give a shit if you die. Genuinely, he never has. And then also another breaking news, RFK Jr. has fired every single vaccine expert at the CDC. MAGA, you voted for this. MAGA, you did this to this nation. And then also another breaking news, Greta Thunberg and a whole bunch of other people on the Freedom Flotilla, the Madeleine that was going to Israel, or sorry, not Israel, that was going to Gaza to give food to the starving Palestinians. They have been intercepted by the IOF. They were kidnapped, sent back to Israel, and then deported. So no food going in for the Palestinian people. They're all going to starve. Listen, I wish I had something to soften the blow for you, but I don't. Your nation is crumbling before your very eyes, and the Republican Party is cheering for it. Welcome to reality. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That helps me a lot, and it costs you absolutely nothing. If you're here live, you stay. If you're watching this pre-recorded on YouTube, do me a favor and click that video right over there. It's a banger, and I know bangers. There we go. Let's get a screenshot of Trump invoking the Insurrection Act. How's the day been treating you? Pretty good. I mean, my day kind of just started. Or, well, I've been awake for hours, but I'm going to go very soon. I got to go to the gym. Episode 146. Computer Fund, thank you. Hi, Beans. Hi. Hi, Baba Scaba. Hi, what are you screaming about? Why are you screaming at me? Don't scream. Trump is putting such a bad name for Republicans. Well, Trump isn't a Republican. He never has been. He's a fascist. There's a big difference between a Republican and a fascist. Would you debate Charlie Kirk? I mean, I would roll him in a debate, but I'm not a debate pervert. I don't believe in debating. It's fucking stupid. Beans, stop. What happened? Beans, you're gonna knock over the whole... Damn it, Beans. I do like the Young Turks. All right, let's get this bitch uploaded. And then I gotta go, guys. Yeah, my bad about that earlier. Didn't mean to yell at you to do your job. That was very bad boss of me. Yeah, I would collaborate with the Young Turks. What's my favorite movie? Oh, I don't know, man. Probably The Lord of the Rings, all of them. Yeah, Valentivad OnlyFans? Yeah, we'll do that eventually. Give me 1 million subscribers on YouTube and I'll start a fucking OnlyFans. I promise. How about that? Episode 146. Trump says Trump is invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807. Nation martial law inbound. Welcome to the end of the American experiment. How do you lie so easily? What did I lie about? Is that official? Yes, he just said it with his own fucking mouth. Came in late, G, sorry. No worries. Martial law inbound? Yeah, he just said that. Yeah, he just said that this is an insurrection and he plans on invoking the Insurrection Act, which is declaring martial law. Yeah. No, this isn't fear-mongering. This is reporting on the news, and the reason you're feeling fear is because there's a fascist in the Oval Office. That's why you're feeling fear. Welcome to reality. Martial law, all right, and publish. That video is published. Up and running. All right. Opening line of your video said he was going to deploy troops to all 50 states. Yeah, because he said we're sending the troops everywhere. Yeah, because he said we're sending the troops everywhere. And because the Insurrection Act of 1807 deploys the military nationwide. It's not my fault that you're stupid, uneducated, and unread. That's your fault. I do this for a living. Big difference. Sure, he meant Cali. Well, then why did he say we're sending troops everywhere? Oh, is everywhere California? Is everywhere California? Interesting. Because he sucks at wording? Yeah, well, he's the fucking president of the United States. So I get to take his word literally, and I report on what he says. And what he said is that he's going to send the troops everywhere. Is that wrong? Did he not say that? Did he or did he not say that? Anyway, I'm going to get ready to go, guys. I got to go. Oh, he absolutely said it, saw it on tape yesterday? Yeah, we all saw it. Not all of us have a mental disability such as you, catfish, and are willing to plug our ears, close our eyes, and go, la 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 la, no he didn't, no he didn't, no he didn't. See, not all of us are pathetic cowards like you, raised by weak-blooded people like your parents. Does that help clarify? Does that help clarify? Weak boy? Does that help clarify, little weak man? Feelings are so hurt. Brother, if you were capable of feeling shame, you probably would. But no, I don't expect you to feel any shame. You support Donald Trump, right? I'm going to go real quick, guys. But do you support Donald Trump still, Catfish? What do you think is going to happen in deep red places? When the military is deployed, you guys, your states are going to cheer for them. You're going to throw roses at them like it's the fucking military liberating Paris. Does your GF pay all the bills since you have such a small viewership and make shit for money? And only if oh, you really are triggered. No, and here's the thing. I actually pay all the bills. That's the thing. I know that you probably can't pay all the bills for your relationship because you're broke as fuck, but I actually pay all the bills. I pay for dinner. I pay for everything. Not because that's what a man should do, but because that's what I like to do. That's the stark difference between us. I'm everything you pretend to be. Look at how triggered you're getting now with your shrimp dick. Look at how triggered you're getting. Is this because you were raised by a whore of a mother and a coward for a father, and your father passed down his micro penis to you? Is this why you're so triggered right now? Or is it because your trailer park slut grandmother that you could fuck for a nickel in the back of the trailer park? Does it have something to do with her passing down her weak blood to you? Which one is it? Thank you for the $5 donation, Nelson. What made you such a weak little worm? Where did it start? Where did it start? With your 200, I don't give a fuck how many viewers I have, bro. There's a conversation between you and I. When did your cowardice begin? Did it begin when your grandmother was getting fucked for 5 cents behind a trailer park? Or did it begin when your father admitted that he was just a blood coward? Where did it start? Or did daddy abandon you? And now you're desperate for some sort of attention from a grown man. Which one is it? Did daddy abandon you? Or did mommy abandon you? Who didn't hug you enough? Mommy or daddy? Which one? Or both? Which one? Which one? You got triggered when I brought up money? No, this isn't triggered. This is just me making fun of a Nazi, bro. No, this isn't triggered. Anyway, I do have to go to the gym, folks. So I'm out of here. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to my fans. Thank you to my haters. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you want to support the channel financially, a couple of ways you could do it. You can become a patron on Patreon. You can become a member on YouTube. You can buy some Valenti Videos merch, and you can use the 40% off discount code for the Vantage subscription located in the description.